start the show?
I'll do that.
Okay.
Yep. Good evening, everybody. Great to see you all here today. It's been a little while since we've had a meetup, and this is a special one because it's Augmenting Reality plus AWE Nites in London and Women in Tech all together for the first time. So it's going to be a really nice evening, I think. So thank you for all for coming. What we're going to do this evening is, this is our little rundown. We're going to have Jeremy Dalton, also an XR advisor. He's going to be our first speaker. Then it's going to be me talking about CS highlights and other hot tech news. That was Muki's phrase, that one there.
Hot, it's hot.
And then Amy Chow from Innovate UK. Muki then, who's actually going to be talking about new opportunities in 2025 for innovation and emerging technology and collaboration. Then Dr. Anna Despina-Tudor, New Talent, Creative and Innovation at the London College of Communication. And then Grace Baird, co-founder and immersive producer at OG Studios. And then last but not least, we have Rob Morgan, who's written a book.
He wrote a book.
And that's going to be the sort of the closing part of the book. The actual book will be on sale in the foyer after the event as well. So if he excites you about what he's written, you get the chance to buy it. So I'm going to invite Jeremy up, who's going to be our first speaker. I hope you'll enjoy this evening. And by the way, it's being recorded and it's possibly going out live in America.
We're live, Steve. We're live.
We're live.
On air.
Great,
Yeah,
fantastic.
We're live on air.
So everybody be on their best behaviour because you're on TV. Okay. So we've got latest technology news, and this is who better to talk about that but Jeremy Dalton. So I'm just going to get.
That's your cue to come up. Jeremy Dalton. Jeremy Dalton.
Hi everyone, it's wonderful to be here, and I'm seeing lots of familiar faces in the crowd, which I always love. For those of you who know me, you may have known me as PwC's Head of Immersive Technologies. The reason that title has changed to a more generic one now for this talk is because as of this month, I've gone independent. I've decided to...
No one can hear you. You have to start over. Encore!
Everyone, it's so wonderful to see you all here today. I'm seeing some familiar faces in the crowd. So for those of you who don't know me, in the United States, perhaps some here in the room, my name is Jeremy Dalton. My previous title was Head of Immersive Technologies at PwC. The reason that title has changed today to a more generic one is because as of this month, I've decided to leave PwC and pursue my own independent projects in the XR space. Recently returned from, thank you. I've been a passionate advocate for XR technology for about 12 years now, established PwC's first XR team globally, and have really enjoyed seeing the community grow, the technology improve, all of the use cases and the magical software and applications that we've all been creating over the years. And it has come such a long way from where it was before. I remember in 2016 when we had to lug a military-style Peli case around the world with computer, base stations, laptop, cables, link box, wipes, and so on. And it weighed like 23 kilograms at the end of the day. You know, who remembers these painful times? Yes, quite a few of us. And at the end of the day, you drag that thing around the world. You get stopped at customs, who thought you were bringing some military hardware into the country. After all that effort, you would get one person into virtual reality. And that's only if there were no mirrors or glass or any shiny surfaces like marble floors in the room. And it was an absolute nightmare. thankfully, we've come a long way since then, and things have just improved and improved. And so a lot of people talk about, or feel a little bit down after the misery, let's say, of the metaverse era. And thankfully, that's well behind us now, and we can start to think about the recovery of XR and what its true value is versus the vanity projects that were pursued during that era. So a lot of people ask me, you know, Jeremy, it's a fairly unfortunate time to be in the industry, and things are down, and is there any future here? But the only people who really feel down or disillusioned are those who haven't been through the multiple downturns and upturns of virtual reality, because as with every technology, it goes through these cycles, right? And it doesn't just go through one cycle. It doesn't get hyped, everyone gets disillusioned, and then eventually recovers. It goes through that, and then it goes through that again, and it goes through that again. Many of us here have been through multiple hype cycles, and we're just in the middle of another one right now. So my answer to that sort of challenge is always the upturn in XR is always inevitable. There is value in this tech, and it goes back hundreds of years. I personally, in my spare time, have a collection of virtual reality historical artifacts. And some of this stuff that I have dates back to the 1800s. For those of you who don't know, check out stereoscopes and things like that. They use exactly the same technology we have in headsets today. The idea of projecting one image to each of your eyes to give you the illusion of a 3D world. So I'm working on a different book. So I have my book Reality Check, which is all about VR and AR and business. But this one's more about, it's called The 1,000-Year Quest for Virtual Reality. And it talks about humanity's excitement and all its endeavors and its mission to really pursue immersive technologies and to be immersed in these different worlds. So if anyone says virtual reality is a fad, I point them to the research that shows it's been going on for thousands of years in various forms, which is always very vindicating and redeeming when you see the realization in their face. So on this screen here, a few of the projects that I've been involved in over the years, some reports about the economic impact. I was the industrial supervisor for some PhD level research in virtual reality, deploying VR to hundreds and thousands of people worldwide, traveling the world, seeing how VR is being used in practice in a surgery in Orlando in this case, going to the archives underground in Minneapolis, because the university there has about 20 crates worth of historical virtual reality artifacts. And so I was pouring through those to try and get an understanding of what was going on in the different aspects of that era. Some volumetric capture products that have been produced there. But all of this stuff, I mean, I've been involved in hundreds of projects over the years, and none of them would have been possible without one person who I'd like to bring to the stage now. Louise Liu, thank you so much. So Louise was the first person to join the XR team, and when I say the XR team, it's basically me in PwC UK. And you know, she has been indispensable in making this, getting us to where we are today. So I have a lot of credit, a lot of respect. Louise is one of the greatest technology project managers on the planet, has an incredible expertise when it comes to this tech. She's been in the weeds of many of these projects, including this really complicated one here involving volumetric capture, which we had to do during COVID when you weren't allowed to be, you know, closer than 2 meters to each other. So that was really, really hard. And, you know, I have a lot of respect for all the efforts that you've done, and hopefully you'll carry on in PwC pushing projects forward as well. So thank you, Louise. And so I don't want to take up your time. I just wanted to introduce myself to those who don't know me. If you want to get in touch, my website's down here, jeremydaltonxr.com or jdxr.io, goes to the same place. And I'll be around tonight. I'll hang around in drinks afterwards. Please join us. I think it's all bar one, Steve. Is that right?
All bar one.
At 9 p.m.
Yep.
And yeah, looking forward to chatting to as many as possible and seeing the XR industry go from strength to strength. So thank you all for being in the industry, and thank you all for having me in the industry as well.
Jeremy Dalton.
So, Jeremy, thank you for that. Yes, augmenting reality has actually been going for 15 years, and there's been a lot of ups and downs in those 15 years. I expect there's going to be quite a few more. When I first started it, I said that we're a long way from getting to what I truly believe is going to be the ultimate augmented reality existence, which of course, as anybody who does know me or has been to other meetups which I've hosted, you know, I'm a big Star Trek fan, so it has to be the holodeck. So that's ultimately where it's going to end up at some point in the future. And there's going to be a lot of ins and outs, and a lot of exciting times, a lot of interesting times. So let's see what's been happening just recently. CES in America, in Los Angeles, in Las Vegas, is about sort of talking about sort of all new things that are happening in the technology world. And here's the sort of takeaway of some of the things which I sort of saw there and was sort of interested about to find out what's happening. And it's interesting to see that sort of just recently a number of headsets have come into fruition and really haven't sort of cut the mustard, no matter how much they tried. I'm really talking about recently the Apple Vision Pro, which was probably a big disappointment. With the price and sort of what it did and how you could get hold of it and how you could use it, and also really sort of how much Apple were prepared to sort of push behind it, which when it came down to it has not been an awful lot. So sort of, I think they're sort of toying with actually sort of bringing out a slightly reduced version, which is hopefully going to be sort of within the realms of normal people to be able to purchase. But we shall wait and see. But one of the things that that actually did was to spur a couple of companies on that have been sort of in and out of AR and VR space. One of those companies is Samsung, and they've been in and out and toying with it. And now they've sort of got back in with something called Project Muhan, which basically a new headset, and it's going to be sort of really interesting. After years of teases, leaks and rumours, they finally got around to sort of saying that this Android XR platform, in conjunction with Google, have been collaborating together with it over a number of years. They've got the first prototype that will use the operating system, and that's Project Muhan. This is what it looks like. There's sort of like the one of the only two sort of images that I could get hold of. It's got the usual thing. It's powered by Qualcomm, Snapdragon XR2 Plus Generation 2 chip is sort of powering it all. And it's going to be interesting to see exactly how powerful that is to make it. As you can see from this image, it's a bit like the Apple Vision Pro in that it actually has an attachment. So it's not, the headset is not sort of headset free, it actually has an attachment which actually goes to it. And of course is actually sort of operating with the help of Android. So the consumer version is set to launch this year. We don't know the precise release date yet. And if that doesn't interest you, I know that Samsung are also interested and working on AR glasses as well. So I think there's a sort of theme that's happening now, is that where the sort of the AR glasses are starting to sort of come in. There's more and more of them going to be available. So after sort of doldrums of the sort of early 20s, the AR glasses are sort of coming back. So it'll be interesting to see what happens and how well it works, because at the moment I don't know anybody outside of the two companies that are creating it that have actually got to use it. So, interesting to see what happens there. There's one other headset I just want to talk about very quickly today, which is called Play for Dream MR. It's a Kickstarter project. It's Android-based, and it claims to be the world's first Android-based spatial computer. So it's on Kickstarter. You can still get into it. There's a sort of like, theoretically, it's actually, if you go in there now, it's right about sort of $700 to $800 to actually get the headset. And it's supposed to be shipping sort of very soon. So you can actually jump into Kickstarter, and if you want to get one, put your name on there and see how that works. So it's interesting to see the sort of price point that they're putting at, and in actual fact how they're sort of basing it as the sort of the spatial computer idea of using XR and VR headsets. So I have a lot of trouble pronouncing this particular project. It's Shupeng Air Ort, right? That's a sort of, apologies if I think that quite right. It's from a Chinese company, and I mentioned it before, but it's basically, it's your own sort of private plane that comes in the back of a car as well. So you get the car and the plane at the same time. So it's a project that actually is in fruition. It is, in actual fact, going to be in the hands of people this year. So it's a vertical takeoff eVTOL, to pronounce it correctly. And they say it's redefining the personal mobility. So not only can you drive to places, you can fly to places as well. So they call the car the mothership, by the way. So it's a sort of like, they've already got 3,000 orders. And the plane is set for, sorry, it's not set for delivery this year, but it's set for delivery at the beginning of 2026. Should be making it the first truly functional flying car concept to actually sort of enter the mass market. It's innovative, and it's really reimagines sort of personal transportation by merging two advanced mobility concepts into a single product, a ground-based luxury vehicle paired with a fully functional two-person electric vertical takeoff and landing vehicle, aircraft I should say. Unlike traditional flying car concepts, it offers dual-purpose versatility, allowing users seamlessly to switch between ground and air travel. So I'm reading from the brochure there, but it's a sort of that's what it does. So it'll be interesting to see how many they sell after the first 3,000. Who here is actually sort of quite keen to get their own personal vertical takeoff aircraft? Oh, a few. Yeah, great. Okay. Well, the skies are going to be buzzing around. It won't always be drones and things like that are popping up all over America and New Jersey and places like that. It'll also be these little babies as well. So it's just another, that's actually just to prove it actually does go up in the, it does actually go up in the air. So this is Swipit. I don't know if anybody knows what Swipit is. Do you know what that is? Is it a toaster?
Sewing machine.
Well, close, but it's really a sort of toaster for very small. No, what it is, it's designed to charge your mobile phone fully charge it in 2 seconds. So that's available to buy now. So if you Google Swipit, then you can actually place an order for it. And yeah, so if you need to charge up your phone instantaneously, that's the way to go. One of the other things I wanted to talk about today was the Mudra Neural wristband. Basically, there's a lot of wristbands around, but this one's actually sort of getting a lot of traction. It's actually designed to work in conjunction, particularly with the Apple Apple Watch. It's actually got even more sensors than the Apple Watch has on it as well. So it actually sort of expands on what the Apple Watch can do and what you can do with the Apple Watch. It takes lots of things, and not only does it actually sort of monitor what you're doing, it actually opens up the possibility of being able to do AR and VR control, because it's not just monitoring functions of what you do, it's actually monitoring your muscles as well. So you can use hand gestures to actually sort of make things happen. So it's really touchless finger gestures from one hand. So it turns your biological signals into digital inputs, making the technology more innovative and inclusive. So I think that actually sort of, the Apple Watch is quite a smart piece of equipment, as we all know, piece of kit. This actually takes it to a new level. Now, of course, one of the other things that we're seeing a lot of at the moment are the rise of robots. And one of the big producers of robots is a company called Unitree. This is their latest version. It's they have the H1 and G1. The G1 actually sort of starts off, you can actually buy it for, I think, about $3,000. You can, in actual fact, for the full-blown version, spend over $100,000, nearly up to $200,000. But it's actually sort of working well. It's a sort of like they've got it working, so you can actually shake your hand without crushing your hand, which is always pretty good. It stands 4.5 feet tall, so it's not quite a full-size human robot, but they're producing lots of these, and they've actually got lots of different various configurations that it's going to be used in lots of different ways. They also produce the one that mimics and looks like a dog as well, so you can have a robot friend and also a robot dog as well from the same company. Of course, there's the other side to robotics from a company called Robotics. We've got Melody, right? This is an upgrade to something that they've had for a while, and really it says they deliver smoother, more fluid, human-like movements, providing more natural range of motion. It is also designed to disassemble easily, simplifying travel and allowing her to be packed in a suitcase for air travel between locations. So you can take your personal Melody with you on holiday. And in fact, they've got two versions, but Melody is the latest one. And that's exactly actually how she looks. They also have a male version who looks slightly more haggard. But it's a sort of like, in actual fact, what they've created is a sort of mechanical skeleton base, especially for the face. And basically they've got rubber masks which overlay that, and those rubber masks can be anybody. They can be like this, male or female, and then they're sort of working on full-bodied robots as well that you can take anywhere apparently in a suitcase. So, just going on a slight tangent here, this is one of the things that I think that Abbott should be getting a little bit more praise for. It's the Abbott Library Free. It's in actual fact, it's for monitoring. It's for monitoring your glucose data. And basically it's a patch you put on your arm, and you can wear on your arm constantly, and then sends data to your phone and to anybody else who needs that data. And that patch can stay on your arm for up to 15 days, and you can swim in it, shower in it, and do everything. So once you've got it on there, you don't have to worry about it, and you'll be constantly monitored. And this is one of the things which is sort of helping countless people that have got sort of diabetes and sort of conditions like that. And I think shows you where some of this new technology can really go and really be helpful. psionic. Psionic is a bionic hand, and basically it's actually one of the best bionic hands that's out there now. This is a sort of another extension of sort of robotics, but of course this is designed to actually fit on a person and to in actual fact mimic a hand. So it's a sort of like the work they've been doing is absolutely fantastic. It's very lightweight, multi-touch sensing, and it's the only one that actually can do that on the market. And the delay between you sort of sending the impulses to it is less than 200 milliseconds. So in actual fact, it's very easy for somebody who's lost a hand or an arm to have one of these fitted, and in actual fact, get very close to what it was like having a real hand and arm again. Now this is a Singaporean startup called Flint, and they've made a new type of battery. And I think everybody would agree that probably having a new battery that isn't lithium based, that sort of like would be quite a good idea. Well, they've taken this to really a sort of an extreme, because in actual fact, it's made out of paper. So it's water-based, rechargeable battery technology, developed from the ground up, built with renewable and non-toxic materials, and offers high performance with a lower carbon footprint. The Flint battery reduces the green premium and is fully compostable at the end of its life cycle, redefining what it means to power the sustainable future. So it's an interesting take on how it's going to go in the future, and so perhaps sort of trying to sort of get hold of all these rare earth minerals isn't going to be so desperately a need in the future. So that will probably alleviate problems that certain countries have of fending off Mr. Trump as he tries to buy up most of the rare earth minerals around the world. Now, of course, NVIDIA is at the forefront of lots of fantastic technology, not only gaming, not only AR and XR, but also AI. And they're producing a new model called the Cosmos, and it's their CEO Jensen called it the world's first foundation model, a previously missing link that will allow robots and autonomous vehicles to become much more capable. It solves a problem that robots need a vast amount of training to make them more useful. Cosmos can simulate data with AI, taking digital models of roads, factories, homes, and other physical spaces, and transforming them into simulations that innovators can use to create the robots of tomorrow. So, probably about sort of 10 years ago, I tipped NVIDIA as being one of the companies to watch. And I'm glad to say that one of my predictions has actually come to fruition. Yeah, it's a very good company. I was talking a little bit earlier about sort of smart glasses with Rob, and that there are a lot of smart glasses coming out, AR-related smart glasses. This is from a French company called Halliday, and it was unveiled at CES this year. And they say it's redefining wearable technology with a unique invisible display design. So from what I've been told about it is the people that have actually had hands-on experiences, it's one of the lightest, one of the easiest to use AR glasses. I think they're sort of making it so that it's more display, so that they're not trying to do too many things. They're not trying to give you full animation and things like that in front of the glasses, but it will be an AI display that will display things that will help you when you're looking for something or talking to somebody. So this is something that's definitely worth looking at, because some of the other models that are out there are still very good, but they're still very big. The actual sort of size of the glasses are sort of very heavy and very clunky. And these ones are sort of getting much more down to the actual sort of form of real glasses. Now, I'm just going to finish up my little talk this evening about, everyone knows that I like to look for the quirky things. So anybody that has problems with sodium and salt, you've got a spoon which actually adds salt to the taste. So obviously you have to eat the food with the spoon, and it adds the salty taste to the food. So it's a sort of, in fact, it was definitely one of the most weirdest bits of tech out in CES. Apparently it does work, and obviously it works using electrodes, but don't worry, it's a very weak electrical current, so you'll be safe enough using it. Thank you for listening to my little talk about what's been going on at CES and sort of some of the quirky things that are around in new technology. And I look forward to seeing you at the next meetup. Thank you. So our next speaker is going to be Amy. So bear with me 1 second while I bring up Amy's slides.
I don't need the mic, do I? I don't need a mic. So while Steve's doing that, ladies and gentlemen, we just want to make you aware we are live on AWE in America. So I want everyone to get up, turn around, and say, "What up, USA?" Okay, I'll just say like, okay, wait, hold on. We are live. Thank you, AWE, for all your support. This is going to also be available on demand by AWE and the Women Immersive Tech website. But Amy Chow, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thanks, Amy.
Thanks for having me, and I'm here to share about a really exciting opportunity. And just by show of hands, how many people know of the Innovate UK Immersive Tech Network? Okay, quite a few. Oh, okay.
Yay.
And then have you heard about the Innovate UK Immersive Tech Awards? Okay, yeah. So essentially, we have this exciting awards opportunity, and really the initiative was launched in answer, to the talent pipeline challenge in this really fast-moving area. It takes the creative and the technical, and how to apply it to various industries. So this idea really came about from the challenge that was identified by our advisory board and an academic working group. So we launched this in 2023, and we're really excited to see in the 2 years past that we've had applications coming from 37 universities across all of the UK. And we're hoping to grow the initiative in this third year. So there are 2 different routes. There's the undergraduate to postgraduate competition, and there's also a career breakout showcase. And that was launched last year because we know that talent just doesn't come from, one traditional route. So what does this entail? We're essentially looking to, identify the talent that's coming out of the UK. So for people that have projects that they're working on, they're invited to submit to the competition. And let's see. And with the undergraduate to postgraduate competition, there are 5 different categories, as you can see. And the finalists, they're invited to a virtual pitch day where they pitch to a whole panel of, esteemed judges. Muki's one of them, I can see in the room. She can attest to the quality
I will take
of
bribery, money, drinks, crack.
And they also will be interviewing with the internship partners, and everyone is invited to showcase at an awards reception that we host. And it's really about people getting to see the work of these rising stars, shining the light on these talent. And also the exciting internship opportunities, we have Arab and Salyus Group, which have been partners since the first year. There's a great success story of Edmund, who's the intern from Salyus, who has continued on to full-time and continues to be a rising star at the company to this day. We have Snap joining us this year, really exciting, no introduction needed for a name like Snap. And we have the Story Lab Research Institute. They've got an amazing project that's part of the European Horizon funded. And we also have the Wales Millennium Center, the Wales, connected with doing it with Sugar Creative. Wales Millennium Center also did a joint internship last year with another studio called Arcade, and it's really great. The internship gives quite a broad view across the spectrum of what the opportunity has. And essentially, yeah, we just want to be able to get the word out, get more talent to apply. And yeah, if people want to, they can scan the QR code, and any questions, they can get in touch with me or Asha.
Great, thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, yeah. Just want to ask a couple of questions, is that okay?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so last year's competition, how did that go?
Yeah, last year it was really amazing. So the competition's also open to individuals and teams to apply, and teams can also go through the interview process individually. And for example, in both of the years, we've seen standout talent. For example, the first year there was someone that had 3 different projects that they entered in 3 different categories. They were a winner, they were a finalist across different categories. Similarly, last year there was a project that was a team, and both of those team members went on to win different internships. And one of the team member was also a finalist in another category. So just these, really amazing, rising star talent. And what we're seeing, we're kind of dubbing them these, unicorn talent that can do creative. They have the technical mind, and they can, drop into different organizations and businesses and, look at problem solving. A lot of the projects we're seeing are also, the students and talent looking at how to really solve big world challenges, looking at connecting with nature, well-being, social taboos. Yeah, really exciting.
That's fantastic. Well, thank you so much.
Yeah,
Thanks, Amy.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, Innovate UK does such great work, and it's fantastic to see these initiatives coming out of what they're doing. So, Muki, you're next. Fantastic. You're
Thank you, Steve. Ladies and gentlemen, Steve Dann. Steve Dann. And you're going to drive.
Yeah.
So what we want to do tonight is kind of mix things up a bit and have a really, obviously there's always a really great array of guests that we have at Augmented Reality Meetup and Women in Immersive Tech Meetup. So we wanted to do these combos and also share a lot of what's going on in the UK to the rest of the world on the live stream. And also, of course, the grand finale tonight, the book launch of Mr. Rob Morgan, right here. Keep that going. I want to hear a lot. There we go. And of course, as Steve mentioned, Rob is going to be doing a book signing out in the foyer. The foyer? Foyer. You say it better than me. Foyer. Foyer. What's that? Foyer. I feel like a rapper too. But I thought I would do a quick little overview. I know there's the kind of billing is around the new opportunities in technologies and where we're going with. Okay, this is just like the flicker here too. I'm used to the clicker, a clicker and a flicker, and then walk around. It's all good. So around new opportunities and things that are happening, within innovation, but it's always good to give you a recap of what's happening with women in immersive technologies. Steve, do you mind holding this microphone for me there? Just okay. Thank you, Steve. We make a good team. Okay. All right. I thought so. Okay. So for those of you who are familiar with women in immersive technologies, thank you for bearing with us. This is an update on what we're about to kind of go forward with in 2025. And also for those of you who don't, welcome. We have a QR code here. It's a free membership, and we do have a very much a very large community on things that have been going. And also, I am your UK ambassador for Women in Immersive Tech, or WIIT. And we have one of our founders here, Johanna. Give us a big wave, Johanna. So if you've signed up, then you're able to kind of sign up to the meetup pages and everything in between and kind of really understand. But it is, you know, our kind of core values are around creating communities to help each other and really spread the word for females in tech, those who identify as females, non-binaries, but also really champion male allies and really raise the roof for, you know, helping make change in our culture, helping make change in the workplace, finding places to upskill no matter what age you are or if you're coming out of crazy situations. And so we kind of do that through our communities, through our meetups, through our goals, and a lot of the campaigns that we do. And you see us, familiar faces around at a lot of tech conferences, such as AWE, big up again, Stereopsia, and the Immersive Tech Week's now merged into Unite XR, United XR. I'll get it right, United XR. And within our other production circles and really running through the breadth and width of media entertainment, gaming, developer conferences, and so the list goes on too. So I'm just going to kind of like whiz you through this again. Everything's available through the websites. I think this QR code goes to the Beacons page, again, where you can please sign up. Just sign up to the meetup pages, follow all the socials, even the X. I'm not sure what we're doing with that one, but who knows? Who knows? Who knows? No one knows what they're doing it. The guy that runs it doesn't even know what he's doing with it. But again, like the core values, like really are around, you know, inclusion, diversity, really finding change and having a voice in what we want to be doing within our industry. And we really know and appreciate the teams that come into place and where diversity comes in, and really having like a positive impact on how your business is run and how your projects are run, and you know, of course, like having that insulation of people inside too. So we started in 2016. I remember it was Johanna and our other founders, Lean, and a few other key players in the industry, and we just, I really specifically remember this conversation, looking around a big media production tech conference thinking, why are there no females on a panel? Why are the only women in so many of these networking conferences? And so we really wanted to create, the founders really stayed true to the vision of creating a unique space where more females can be on stage and having a voice, and inspiring other females and our male allies as well too. So it is about changing the game and changing up the story, and again, finding places, making safe spaces to connect and meet, inspire, learn. It is core focus within the XR and interactive and immersive communities around AR, VR, Web3, gaming, etc. too. So Johanna, beautiful Johanna right here in the front row. Lean, Vera, Isabel is our community manager. So when you see a lot of the posts got on LinkedIn, is our firecracker, helping with our social medias as well. And then I think we've got 17 ambassadors, 18 ambassadors in 2 countries. No, 18 ambassadors in 18 countries. And so we're here to kind of be the face and to help raise that awareness. If you have any other questions, I'm kind of your first point of contact, but every single person's approachable. And as you can see, we have amazingly talented people helping represent and kind of travel around the world and share these voices too. So some of the previous campaigns where we've seen this change really having a major impact is around things like our Immersive Creative Catalyst that happened in 2022. The diversity initiative has really been helpful with a lot of female founders and investments and things, working with some of our other kind of key business entrepreneurs in our kind of ecosphere, and other programs, which some we're very proud of all of these, but one that really stands out for us is the Young Badass Girls Lab, and that's where we were able to help. There's more. Yes, so this kind of, I'll come back to the Badass Girls one in a second, but as you can see, like meetups are happening all over Europe. So if you are traveling around or running a conference, come talk to us, because we can have like a WIIT meetup, and this is part of a WIIT meetup. So you can see we make a party. We like to make a party and have things really come into play. But with the success stories, again, besides panels and Walk of Fames and really great tie-ins and co-productions with other amazing communities such as Augmenting Reality Meetup. Steve's always been an amazing advocate and a huge, huge ally for women in immersive technologies, and we're super duper.
Very much.
Oh, whoa. What is that? Sorry, wake up! Are we all awake? You're awake. You're awake now. I don't know.
Very much.
Okay.
Very.
I got Killer Kelly. You can just drop us some beats. Maybe like a little bit later. Okay. We'll get back to that. That's available through the QR code, but in your own set of headphones, we get back to that. Again, just like success stories, I think this slide will probably be updating it, and these numbers increase every day, every week. And again, amazing community. So thank you for your support. So what we really plan to be doing in 2025 is just really raising the game and elevating the programs that we've had this success with. I want to go back to the Badass Girls Lab, where we were really working very, very closely with our another kind of production company in the States that helped us kind of create this program for young females between 13 and 17, some from underprivileged parts of the world, or maybe they've been going through displacement or a hard time in their country and where they are. And it was really given. We were sponsored by Meta at the time. Meta, if you're in the house, come talk to us. Thanks. Okay. It really gave them an opportunity to there's about 5 or 6 of them, 7 of them that kind of made it through this program. We're really nurtured around the creation of UX, UI, that storytelling, wireframing, coding, developing, but thinking it from the bigger end-to-end perspective of building a product or a platform and experience and going to market. And we brought that to AWE. Thanks, AWE, again, 2 years ago, and they won an award. So we're excited. Women in Immersive Technologies were helped to propel them and gave them a platform to speak on stage and start their kind of, hopefully, their speaking career, which is always super exciting to me personally, and being able to provide a voice and a safe space for more females to have a voice. So it was great to see some 14 and 15, 16-year-olds being so eloquent and so intelligent on stage talking about coding and Python and C# and everything. So it was like really, really, really. What's that? And now, yes, and then this is, so what's happening in 2025, they've stayed together as like a little dream team, and they made their own startup, and it was around sustainable fashion and being aware of, like it's like a little bit of a dream gig, and so they're getting kickstarting and funding and helping create a lot of some. So again, we're kind of all over the world. The diversity hours, again, kind of helping more female founders. We work really closely with Dave Haynes. I'm sure we all know Dave Haynes from FOV Ventures. And also thank you to Amy and Asha Easton. Asha, big up girl, she's gonna be here, through XRDI, and obviously lots of partners from around the world. We are always looking for support. It is a registered NGO, constantly looking for support and sponsorship. So if anybody has some extra pennies in their pocket, we will big you up and make you look good for many, many years to come. And so it'd be cool to kind of chat to you and find out where those spaces are too. So yeah, we've got a lot of these benefits. Again, you can find these on the website and come talk to us afterward. And I think that slide doesn't go any further, but that's a bit boring, does it? That's it? Okay. Is there anything else that I missed, Joanna? No, okay, let's move on. Let's move on. So thank you guys again. Thank you, Steve and Jeremy Dalton as well. Been an amazing ally in the industry, and so many here. Tom Fisk and of course Rob Morgan, who we're going to chat to a little bit later. So should we continue on with our program here? Really? Okay. Yes. Yeah. So thank you guys. I think that we're gonna have it. Yeah, we can round of applause. I'm posing for everyone. But we've got a little bit of a unique lineup today, so we wanted to kind of showcase some of our amazing women in immersive technologies and kind of give you some people who are making change in the industry. So it was really important to invite a couple guests today. So would you like to introduce the next guest?
Yeah.
Okay. Why not?
I just wanted to say thank you, Muki, because Muki actually sort of does an awful lot to actually sort of help everybody and help actually sort of augmenting reality and actually help this meetup. So without contribution, we wouldn't be as good as we are. So thank you, Muki.
No, you hang up. No, you hang up. You hang up. You hang up.
So next we've got Dr. Anna Despine-Tudor.
Say that 10 times fast.
I was scared saying it once.
Yeah. So Anna. Welcome. Round of applause for Anna there. So Anna, I met this amazing woman who moderated a panel for. It was great to be on a panel for a change because normally I'm the one moderating, so it was great. We met at the Aesthetica Short Film Festival last autumn, and we were talking about tech and women in tech, and I was so blown away by the stuff that you do at London College of Communications, and I met some of your graduate students, and I know that they were doing some experiences, and I think some folks in the room have had a chance to experience some of those. But so I think the program that you're running around, like, we want to talk to you today about new talent and creative innovation. Just a quick show of hands, has anyone heard of Anna? UAL, yeah, okay. Good little crowd, you got a little posse, you're bringing your fan club here too. And a lot of times, like, you are able to, like, have your students showcase their work and everything there too. So before you kind of run us through a little bit of your program, would you like to step in front of this microphone here, or would you like a handheld? Do you want to drive? Yes, go ahead.
I mean, will you be sitting?
I could drive.
Here? You
Yeah,
can
I'll
drive.
Okay, I'll drive. Okay, wait, make sure that's on. We're women who hold tech as well. Yeah. There we go. Okay. Yes. Women who hold tech and can turn things on. We can also operate a flushing toilet too.
Thank you, Muki.
Excellent. Very
Amazing.
well.
Okay, can I start? No.
Yes, I think so. But I think, like, why don't you just give us a little background about yourself, how you got started, and what were your
Sure.
kind of your kind of pinpoints getting you to being a doctor first of all. And Steve works in Doctor of Medicine, but that's probably two different doctors.
Doctor of Philosophy.
Yes, so tell a little
but
bit
it's-
about your background.
Yeah, so hi everyone, thanks for coming today. I'm here to represent the program that I run, MA in Virtual Reality. It's a bit of a dated name, we're going through a renaming process. But we're part of London College of Communication, screen school sitting between design and media. And we're trying to make things interesting. My background is in media psychology, so I kind of landed in VR in a little over 15 years ago. And it was funny when Jeremy mentioned the suitcases. Well, I challenge you, the cave. So basically, the first time when I I came across VR, it was the size of perhaps this room with a cluster of computers, with massive, heavy, extremely expensive projectors, and somebody who had to put in the code. When I was looking at that, it was all like extremely foreign. So I thought to myself, this is not something that I'll probably be able to do, but I might be able to research about, which ended with me doing my master's and my PhD focusing on how VR can be used for communication training, psychology, so kind of taking a very nerdy pathway. And then cut to a dip, right? When in 2015 VR, at least on the continent, back then I was in Germany, so I'm a professional immigrant. This is my third country, right? 2015 Germany, no jobs in XR. XR was not a thing. VR was not a thing either. So I came across a job opportunity for 1 year in the UK, and then cut to now. I live here. I'm married. I have a kid. So basically, I've been adopted.
You're stuck?
I stuck, yeah. So this is a quick intro to me. Next slide. These are my colleagues, Eric and Jean. They are the pioneers, the code pioneers and artists who make the course run. And Klaus Fried, we have adopted from a film background. He's the one who's helping us create the narratives that we're trying to push forward with our students. And yeah, that's me in the corner.
Oh.
Lovely, yeah. So the course was established in 2018, which in VR years, I don't know, is that a lot? Is that little? I think it feels like a lot, but actually it's not a lot. A lot has changed yet, however, since then. When we started the course, I think it was one of the very first MAs in the world, if I'm not mistaken. And I remember sitting there through the summer and worrying, what am I going to teach, right? Like, where do you start with an MA in VR? And that was a whole challenge, and it's been a challenge ever since, because even if we managed to establish kind of like a fundamental curriculum, it has to change, and it changes quite rapidly because the industry changes. So to be honest, I always feel like we're a little bit behind, but I think that's natural, right? As an educational institution, we have to navigate really carefully if we embark on a technology immediately or not, because what do students do afterwards? What if we teach them the wrong thing? What if we show them the wrong thing and they go out there and they're jobless? So that's been the challenge for us to navigate that, and I think we've kind of found our path, which is why we are focusing on the story part of XR. So we're trying to apply the technology to tell stories, such as, you know, you learn how to film, to do a film, or you learn to animate, to make an animation. Only that, we also teach people how to use the TV. I was thinking a few days ago, like, imagine you have a course in television and you don't only teach how to make film, but how to set up a TV set, how to plug it, how to cable it, how to put the, you know, the satellites up there. This is how VR feels to us a little bit today. And we're trying to push a lot of information onto our students, and they brave through it. I'm super proud of them. I think they're doing really great because they learn a lot of things. The core, though, is to stay critical and to learn how to build a good concept, a solid concept. And because we're a school of arts, we look at stories and more like experiences, and we also go quite experimental in terms of performances, not so much nerdy applications of XR as I used to do back in, you know, in my youth days. We're also collaboration oriented, so we have, every year we collaborate with various external partners. They're not necessarily from industry, so it's kind of like a client based collaboration. Clients come to us and say, we want to raise awareness about something, help us. Can we use VR, can we use AR, what do you advise us to do? And then students embark on a 10-week project, which is crunch time really, and then they deliver. And at the end, the selected projects, they get awarded or they get, you know, presented at launches and whatever the client is doing. And these are some of our collaborators in the past. We've worked with UNESCO last year. With Unit 9, we have an ongoing collaboration on a research project of my own, where students are also pitching in, and I can tell a little bit about that at the end. And then we've worked with the Children's Society and Dulwich Picture Gallery back in the day, actually before the pandemic, so it feels like really, really a while ago.
The what?
I know. And this is us, right? We had a degree show in 2020, and we were not able to come to the building, so we did it in VR chat, and it was absolutely lovely. We had a lot of fun. It was clunky, it stopped, it crashed, but the students managed to put, you know, their assets in VR chat, and we had a great time pretending to be mushrooms and bananas and, you know, not being too serious. So yeah, here I made a selection of our recent success stories, which are some of the projects that got awarded.
Oh, that's
And,
not.
oh no, no, here, yeah. So the first one, right, because it's gonna play, right? The first one is the project that won the UNESCO award last year. So UNESCO came to us and said, we want to raise awareness about the state of the oceans. Apparently, we are in what they call now an ocean decade. So they do various projects about that, and they brief the students, do something about the oceans. I mean, that's a lot, really, right? Where do you start? So a team of 4 VR students sat down, and they came up with this idea of speaking about the whale population in South Georgia Islands. And most of the time, actually, when I speak to the students about their ideas, I try to dissuade them from using VR, right? I'm like, I know I should be teaching you how to use it, but do you really have to do it in VR? And a lot of the time, the answer is no. That's why we try to work around about what makes that idea unique to work for the technology. And in this case, it was not VR, it was a 270 projection, and you can play it now. Thank you very much. Play, there's a button.
Roll VT.
Creates a mixed media animation documentary that is projected on the 270 screen. The 3D animation is kind of along with 2D graphics that obtain in Premiere Pro. This section has been cut into 4 sections, reminiscence, which is what we're seeing now, along with these graphics here, and from the 2020 study of the blue whale resurgence.
So that was just last year.
It was
2024,
last year, yeah. And this got the UNESCO award. They got some exposure on social media. They got some money. The cool thing about this project was that it runs also in the headset as an MP4, so that adds to its distribution value, but it didn't have to be necessarily interactive. Next. This one is a project birthed during the pandemic. This is an extremely talented student, Vier. He lives in Portugal. Based on this project, he rallied up a lot of studios in across the globe, actually, and I worked with them recently on getting their script rights, right? And this is his story about loneliness during the pandemic and how find solace through lucid dreaming, and he's an extremely talented artist. This is all his work here, and you can play the button just to showcase a little.
And also, we've had this conversation before. You know, the sensation that I value the most is impossible to achieve in a dream. You know, that sudden awareness that I'm a thing living this very specific life. I think sometimes the most depressing parts are also the most liberating. I mean, if nothing matters, what are you afraid of?
Has he continued working there? Because you've got
Yes.
like 2020. Yeah.
Yeah, so this project was his final major project, what we call at the college, the graduation project. And then he pitched it, and now there's this team of 5 studios working on a dream anthology called Lucido, which comes from lucid dreaming, and they are developing it. So each studio does 1 episode, and this is the pilot because he has been the most advanced, pushing with the idea, and they all address the theme of dreaming and how that can look like in XR.
Cool.
Yeah, this is a project that also comes from before the pandemic. It was a seed funding that we received from Nesta to do something in XR. It's kind of like it happens, do something with it. And what we decided to do back then as staff, we partnered up with someone at King's College, and then we came up with the idea of doing harassment, training against sexual harassment. We pitched the project got accepted, then the pandemic hit, and we shelved the project. And last year we had some students pick it up, literally dust it from underneath the desk, and they created a 360 film and an interactive VR gamified scenario where you can experience sexual harassment, but from the perspective of a witness. So it's not on you, but you're witnessing somebody harassing somebody else. And that experience is meant to teach you how to intervene, right? So there are intervention techniques. And this is a snapshot from the 360, which was interesting because they decided to do a cross-platform to showcase how emotional it is to be a victim. And then you go in VR and you actually have the opportunity to intervene and change the story. Yeah.
If you were there, would you help? If you were there, would you help me? If you were there, would you help me?
If you were there, would you help me?
This is not your fault. I'm here to help you.
So at the moment, we're trying to raise funding, kind of like research funding to continue working on this project because we would like it very much to be a tool that is available for organizations as it was initially planned.
Amazing. So you're currently fundraising for this project?
Yes.
Yes. And is this the website to?
This is the website to just responding and, to sexual harassment. I have a link to our course page where there's an email address to me, and because the students have graduated, so it's hard to kind of keep track where they are.
Yeah.
But that's something that we're looking at.
So wannatalkaboutit.com.
Yes.
All one word. Is that fantastic? Cool.
This is a game that won the Rookie Awards. Woohoo! That was in 2022. It was the best immersive game, which was brilliant. My students came up with the concept. They did a lot of the modeling, and then they put it into a game, a beautiful game. I put it here just because, this is how stunning work can look in XR. The game has a sad ending and a happy ending. I like to stick to the happy ending where we push colonizers away.
Roll VT.
Yeah.
The Oin and the Forest will present a manuscript for operating the alchemy generator in front of the player.
All right. And we can go to the last project, which has this thing on it. It is a project that won the Immersive Tech Award last year for Best Immersive Game. two of our students did it again in a crunch time collaborative unit, and it is about breaking down the taboos around sexual toys. So when we
Nothing like a good
confetti selection. Imagine when we showcased this at the college, we did a work in progress show, and just for this little part here, they had to put up a huge panel to hide it, right? So at the entrance, we were fighting to get the best position for the project. As you enter the building, you go up the stairs, and then you see it, and what do you see? A panel. Right, so it was very disappointing, but we got a lot of visitors, and it was fun in the end. Because
Sure you did.
Yeah, sure we did.
One thing to note: this award, this project, you can see at the top, won the Innovate UK Best Immersive Game Award last year. Yeah. So proof is in the pudding.
Yes.
And
very proud of my
awesome.
of my babies.
Cool.
All right.
I think we should play the disco music again. I think we're ready for the party.
All right, so we're planning some events. I didn't want to talk too much about them because they're in the making and you never know if they happen or not. But please follow us. That's the Eventbrite LCC page. We're planning to have a show and tell and some demos with industry and with a variety selection of projects from current and past students. So follow that. If it happens, it should happen sometime in May. You know, we have time to plan for that. And below there is a research project that I'm doing at the moment with students, and that's kind of like, it makes me tick because we're doing a bit of research, we're doing a bit of experimentation around using mixed reality to play climate games. So we want to kind of like get a model UN in mixed reality, but with 4 random people that can meet and sit at a table and discuss what can they do to you know, alleviate, right, the climate crisis. And it might sound like a lot, but you know, we're very hopeful. So that's an ongoing thing as well.
Amazing.
Thank you.
Thank you, Anna. Thank you. Huge round of applause for Anna. I think we're going to keep you up here. I've got a question. I think Steve might have a question, but we're going to throw it to the audience for maybe 2 or 3 if you want to get your big, beautiful brains on. I was just wondering, like, how are you finding any challenges around, you know, the kind of how quickly things are changing with software, with AI, like the automation of the process of the builds, and second part around the hardware. You know, when you are missing, like, you know, the hopes of the Apple Vision Pro and what happened there, and then where do you go? Do you stick with MetaQuest? So software, hardware.
Yeah, so on the hardware side, I think we've been luckier because we've been using the Quest for quite a while now, and previously we'd used the HTC Vive Pros for the heavier projects. The Apple Vision Pro was a disappointment, but in the end, students got it, and staff got it, and somebody got it, and you can try it out. As I said before, we try not to embark or to bet too heavy on a new technology because it's extremely expensive. The university is a behemoth, right? It's very hard between, like, it takes a lot between when you propose to buy something and you actually get it. And by the end, when you finally get it, it's been shelved, right? So we got the Apple Vision Pro this winter, right? Right after we heard that it's not gonna be. So,
and you don't get your money back.
And we don't get our money back, but we can still use it for research and we can still play with it. On the software side with AI, so our students are currently working on the climate change project using AI for character development. The projects are not out yet, so they're like 1 month into the making. So we hope to showcase something at the open event later in spring. We're committed to Unity, but we play with Unreal, so it's kind of like what everybody does, I want to say.
Yeah. A lot of nodding heads.
And we're trying to keep the expectations at a decent level. They're master students, so they've been a little bit through life. They were like 22, 23, still young, but they have a little bit of, you know, their dreams have been broken a few times before coming here. So it's not the first time when we tell them, just be patient. Learn to be critical, learn to, you know, to present your work as best as you can. Technology will change. It's important to know what you want to do, and then everything else can be learned. Yeah.
Amazing advice for all of us, probably, in the room. Yeah, Steve, did you have any
Well, yeah, I think that was very interesting because one of the big problems I see in VR, especially, is in actual fact in the hardware, but also in the software, is basically the user interface. It's a sort of like it's a real problem when manufacturers bring out headsets and then discontinue them within 12 months. You point out sort of that's a big problem for universities. It's actually a big problem for anybody, whether it's a sort of a commercial company as well. But also the sort of that at least Meta have sort of got in there for the long term at the moment, and they're actually sort of putting their money where their mouth is and sort of helping out that way. But do you concentrate on sort of on the sort of, it's also user interface about how easy is it once somebody's got a headset on, how easy is it for them to actually sort of engage in the experience?
We spend about 3 months just talking about how an experience is experienced. So we really delve into why you put an object where you put it and how does the person engage with it. That's why when they start the program, when they start writing, which is basically writing, script writing, right? We spend all that time asking them, does this drive the narrative forward? Is the user naturally inclined to go in one way or the other? We don't want to tell people what to do. We don't really like interfaces. So, you don't want to have a thing popping in telling you what to do. So we try to strip the medium of its mediumness and think in a 360 space and bring it back to what feels right and what drives the reaction through narrative and through intuition, if you like.
Absolutely. Good question. So one or two from the audience?
Any questions?
Anyone? Oh. Yes. Oh, wait, we have a mic. Steve is going to jog.
Hello. That was really good talk. Some of them projects look really, really interesting. And I've got a VR headset at home, obviously, and I'd like to jump inside some of these projects. Is there anywhere that we can do that, like a little demo, or because I was at AWE and we were discussing this whole idea. There's lots of great projects, and I've got a VR headset at home, and then I go home and I'm talking about it, but I can't actually go and just even like a Vimeo place where you've got all these great projects that have won awards, and you can go and then try it out for yourself.
Yeah, so at the moment we're trying to establish a sort of an archive of XR projects because we are involved with festivals as well, and there's so much work out there which doesn't end up on the store and then it vanishes. So this is one example, like such projects. I have them on my hard drive, and the only way to showcase them is on an open day or at the degree show, and then if they're not bought, then they basically vanish. So I would say, if anyone is, wants to collaborate on an archive, please come to me because I'm really excited to.
You've got one victim
to
here.
get that.
It's
Yes,
easier.
now you have to. But yeah, I would say the open day. Just keep an eye on the open day, and hopefully we'll sort out the distribution bottleneck of such work.
Awesome. Cool. Thank you. We got another
Thank
question in the back.
Yes, I can make it.
Oh, wait.
However, it's a very short one. You mentioned you think the name of the program is a little bit outdated. Any new name in your mind?
Awesome disco machine.
How about we do a little Mentimeter now, and you help me come up with names. It's hard because there are so many names that you can immersive XR, storytelling. They're kind of like, yeah, they're nice, but they're also, I don't know.
We will be
We're
going to the pub after
brainstorming,
this, so
so
we have like
yes,
the liquid brainstorm.
Yes,
moment.
we'll have to brainstorm on that. We're still doing it.
And one more question. Right? Thank you.
Hello, hi, thank you. Quick question about driving interaction. You said through narrative, and is it context? Other things?
It can be context, or it can be, depending on who you are in the story. If you are a passive observer, then we try to guide the attention. If you are an active participant, then we try to invite you through the context of the narrative or through dialogue to participate. So there are various ways to do that, depending on who you are. But we always start from the question of who is your viewer in this piece? What's their role in the story, and build from there.
Anna? Is this on? Yes. Thank you so much, Anna. One more round of applause, please, Anna. And if you are coming to the Aesthetica Film Festival, we will be back live on stage together again, reunited, and it feels so good. So we've got one more special guest before our headline act, Rob Morgan. So Grace Baird, welcome.
Hi.
How are you? You are the co-founder and immersive producer of OI Studios, and today we're going to take a look, a little behind-the-scenes look of a new game, and a little bit behind the scenes of your background and what it was like to, create this game. And you're about to go to market. You're about to be launched. So, round of applause for Grace Baird, ladies and gentlemen. So, would you like to stay here and this mic is on?
Yes.
Too?
Thank
so,
you.
Grace, I think just for anyone that doesn't know you, do you mind tell us a little bit about yourself and kind of a little how you got your start and what you do right now?
Yes, so I am an immersive producer, and my background has always been in storytelling and digital for immersive and creative technologies. I've been at it for over a decade now, and a lot of what you were saying around, the evolution and changing of how to teach and how to make as someone who's come up through that sort of journey has been really interesting. So hopefully I will have something to share for all of you as well. So thank you, Muki.
You're right. Thank you.
Congratulations, Rob, on your book launch. I first met Rob back in the pandemic when he was at the beginning of this journey.
Yes.
So it's really exciting to see it come to full launch, and I'm excited to
Probably
hear
crawling
more
around
about
with
it later.
Post-it notes,
Yeah.
putting things together there too. So yeah, when Rob was telling me about you and your work, it blew my mind and fascinating. So I couldn't wait to talk to you. And when we had a little briefing call a couple weeks ago, you've got a great story. Obviously, when you kind of got into this space, what brought you to creating a studio? And tell us a bit about your business and how many people you have in your business and what it's like, obviously being a female leader in your business as well too.
Yeah, sure. So I am a co-founder of OG Studios with my partners Anrik and Liam. We've been working together for a number of years now, making immersive experiences using augmented and virtual reality. A lot of that work has been commissioned or publicly funded, narrative-driven or experiential works. And last year we decided to focus our energies on making mixed reality games, and that's where OHI was born. And our first debut game is IO. So IO is a mixed reality, cozy, casual game. You are able to bounce shapes off of your own walls and environments, merging them together to solve puzzles. And as you can see here, we use the pass-through, and this is our unique aesthetic effect. You can turn it off, but we really like the strong look of having the pass-through here. So IO is currently, how do I make that play? Oh, no. Okay, didn't actually want to do that. How do I make it play?
You might just hit the down arrow.
I'm like in a different place now. What's going on?
Oh, Steve Dann, your Gmail account is okay.
Oh, okay, and then just down?
Yeah.
No, that's the wrong place. How do I make? Technology, eh? Okay, well, I can share a link to it later. It was just the trailer that was going to play, but I have some slides later.
We heard music too.
Yeah, I had it on mute. It was going to autoplay. It was a whole thing. It's fine. So IO is currently available in early access on the Meta Horizon store, which means you can download it, but we are still developing it. We are working with Meta on our full strategy of getting it launched, and we're going to be launching it fully. Hi, I've just seen someone I recognize. We're launching fully in the summer, and IO came out of being part of a Meta hackathon where we won the spatial gaming strand, and we were really interested in looking at how you could maybe take a game like Pool and look at physics in mixed reality and make a spatial game. So we've always been really drawn to innovation and creative technology. And I know that I'm preaching to the choir here, but just to reiterate the distinction between augmented reality and mixed reality. Augmented reality overlays virtual objects into your real world view, whereas mixed reality allows virtual objects to interact with your actual environment. And we're finding, or personally I'm thinking that with virtual reality and augmented reality, we're getting to a place where there are conventions. We kind of know what we are doing or how to guide people in that space. But mixed reality is a lesser known space. There's still a lot more to figure out as the technology is evolving and how to make games that work in this mixed reality environment. So that's something that really appeals to us in making for this space in particular. One of the biggest advancements with mixed reality and with the Quest 3 in particular is the pass-through camera, but also the hand tracking. And that for me is something that I find really interesting. Being able to physically interact with things using your hands rather than controllers in a real world pass-through space can really help blur the lines between what is digital and what is your real world. If you think about where we've come with mobile devices, you know, we used to have the BlackBerry with the clicky keyboard, which I did love, but we are so used to the intuition of having a touch screen now. And as a dyslexic person, I find it really difficult using controllers. Like my muscle memory never works. My fingers and thumbs never do what is meant to do when I'm meant to pick something up like that. But if you can go and you can find an object and you can pick it up and touch it with your hands, or if you can find a button and you can push it with your fingers, that is intuitive. That just makes sense, and that helps really embed that level of immersion. So that is something that we have used within I/O. You are able to touch these objects and grab them and point and poke, and it feels much more tactile and just like more natural away. And although the Apple Vision Pro is, as we've seen, not really going anywhere, they came out without controllers. And the PSVR have just released hand tracking as well. So it's my personal opinion that controllers are on their way out. Not to say that you won't always, you know, there isn't a use case for them in some places, but having hands really helps in immersion in mixed reality. Another major shift is having spatial anchors. So persistent digital objects that remain in space when you leave and when you go back to it. We're really interested in how to use these spatial anchors to create a gameplay. So I/O uses your physical environment as the play space, and that is different depending on where you are. My living room isn't going to be the same as your living room, so your gameplay of I/O is going to be different to mine. But within that, we're able to create a game that uses these generative objects that will respond and react to the size and shape and layout of your room. Now, this isn't one of our games, but this is a really good example of mixed reality social play. And that's an area that Meta are really interested in. How do you get two people in mixed reality playing a game at the same time? And that's where we come back to these spatial anchors, these objects that both of you can look at and interact with. So when you put the Quest 3 on and you scan your environment, it blocks out your room. So it can say there's a sofa there, there's a wall there, there's a window there, but it doesn't actually capture and save or share your environmental space for privacy reasons. So this person here is captured in headset footage, but no one else can see that unless they share that video. But they are playing a game with another person. So they have both people are in their own environment, can see their own space, but they have this shared object that is the table and the ball and the panels, and you can see the other avatar. And so that is a really interesting area that we're kind of looking at, is how do you create a game where everyone is in a different space? What are those shared objects that people can mutually play with to be able to engage together, because if you play together, you're more likely to return to any sort of game or experience. So at the heart of all of this is the camera, and with the Quest 3, the pass-through camera has really improved, and with the spectacles, so we also make lenses and games for the Snap spectacles, which will be coming out later in the autumn. Behind all of that is the camera and how it is evolving and improving. So we are creating apps that also integrate AI spatial awareness. So unlike the Quest 3 that can understand where walls and stuff are, the Snap lenses with an AI powered spatial awareness is able to not only see what you're seeing, but can understand it in context and therefore can react in real time to what it is that you're seeing. So we're working on lenses where you are, so this is one of ours, it's a pool assist, so it can read where the balls are on a pool table and tell you hit here, train you how to play the game. It can understand the context of what it's seeing and play with you. So this is another little one that we've made for the lens, just a fun thing so that you can be told by your plants when they need feeding in a cute way. So as we navigate this development of AI-driven experiences and mixed reality gaming, it's really important that we as developers and designers think about the impact this has on privacy, on data security, and even the psychological impact of blending the boundaries between realities. And so at the heart of our development and our designing is our audience at the center. And we're also mindful of who we are making this with and alongside, those organizations that have their roots in social media. We have to be mindful of what we're doing with people's spaces as well. So we would say that when we're making, the focus is always and should always be on what is simple. Don't get overly complex, because that's going to be hard to bring people in. Make it fun and make it shareable. And that is something that these platforms are really keen on as well, is, what is that memeable visual? What is going to draw people in? Because you want people to come in and you want people to return. And those are the two sort of main metrics that these platforms are looking for. And so, I can say all of this and have a view on what the landscape might look like, but to be honest, we don't know. We don't have a crystal ball that can see into the future. We don't know what the landscape can look like, and so our approach is to be responsive and iterative, and to listen to what our audiences are wanting, what our players are enjoying. And that way we can make a roadmap for the future and for our game, but we have to be flexible along with it. Thankfully, the VR and the mixed reality developer and player communities are really supportive. And so in this together, we are sharing our insights and we are helping each other navigate through these spaces. Two friends in particular, XR Fitness and OpenBrush, are apps that you should definitely check out. So just shouting out to friends, because friends love friends. And so if you want to be a part of shaping IO, we are, as I say, we're in early access. We are in development at the moment. So you download the game, it is not finished, but we would love your input. So you can follow us on socials. The E has fallen off the edge there, but IO VR game, we're across most of the socials. This is a QR code through to our Horizon page, so you can have a look at where we're up there. And we've got a 50% discount code, so for less than the price of a pint, you can get IO now and join us on our journey as we will be developing it. As I say, we'll be releasing in the summer, and we have got a lot of plans as to how the game is going to evolve, but we would love your input as well. We're going to be launching our Discord, where we are going to be working really closely with our player community on how we evolve and shape our game. So if you want to be part of that, then please do join us, follow along, and watch as we evolve this game in this exciting space.
Amazing. Round of applause for Grace. So Grace, don't go anywhere. we'll get a little bit more about the studio on the next time round because let's focus on this game. So I think hands up in the room, has anyone created a game? And how to do QC, Q, everything, and ship it? Go to market? A couple. See, the hands started going down. But congratulations on going. I think most of us in this room are creators. You know, we work in this space to make people feel something and get excited and do something and launch something new. So do you mind sharing a little bit of the story of the evolution of the game? Like, who thought of the idea?
So the original idea came from Liam, one of my co-founders. He came up with the idea of merging shapes in space and how to take the traditional sort of flat level pool and make it into a 3D idea. And then Anrik came up with the beautiful visuals and aesthetics. And together we have all like iterated and evolved this game. And I think the key thing that we were wanting to explore is how to make something that is fun, that is simple, but also has that cozy and calm play feel, because there's still a bit of a reputation that in VR gaming, it's about shooting, it's about what kind of make your heart race. And we just wanted to like calm down. Like, what can you play lying down? What can you play chill? What is not going to give you a heart attack? Because we're all quite chill people, and we were like, let's just make it pretty and let's make it calm.
Right. And how long was your development phase from like, you know, concept through that iteration? What was that pipeline?
We have, I don't know, all blurred in. I think we started on this last spring, so we might be coming up for a year.
Okay.
We officially went into early access on Christmas Day, so it was between then and yeah, Christmas. But we're not done. This isn't by no means finished. This is just the beginning of the journey, really. So we have got plans for how it's going to evolve and shape, and how we can look at bringing people back, because it's still very simple at the moment, and that's why we want to like not wait until it's like finally finished. We're not trying to work everything out before we go. We are like, let's put it out there, let's see how people respond to it, and then we will keep iterating on it.
100%. That's a good plan. Good thing to do. You have an instant focus group in this room, and I was like, you just get a QR code. Get a QR code. Everyone will help you. So hopefully you get some good feedback on here too. So who would you say is kind of your the main audience? Like, who would you say is kind of your core user that you're kind of looking to really embrace?
So I think that's one of those questions where it's like, we don't have a fixed person in mind. We are being responsive to this. So there's a much older demographic of people who play in VR and are looking for games where there's not just like children flailing everywhere. We wanted something that had a bit more of a grown-up aesthetic, but that doesn't mean that we're not open to younger audiences. And that's why we went out early and simply and on this kind of basic level, because we're building our community for our socials at the moment to see who our audience is. And then we will continue to make it for them rather than trying to chase someone, because we can't predict who's going to like it, but whoever likes it, we'll make it for them.
Nice. So you're just kind of like finding the feet of what's happening in that kind of wider ecosystem. In those audiences, I mean, too. Do you mind sharing a little bit of like warts and all behind the scenes of this game? You know, what was it like when you were starting to approach Meta? You know, you did the hackathon. So did you feel that was like the right way to go? And obviously some success came out of it, but what was that process like working with Meta?
It was not as intentional as that. We took part in the hackathon and made an early version of it, which looks really quite different to how it looks now. But in winning the spatial gaming strand there, we then got access. They put us into their develop program, and then through that program, when we said, we're going to launch, that's when they came to us and said, we want to help you with the support of the launch. So it kind of wasn't very intentional.
Right.
It just happened because we made something, or at least the feedback that we have heard from them is we've made something that looks unique, that is simple, has the ability to scale and scope, and just looks fun. And I think that there's something different and unique to I/O compared to some of the stuff that is out there, and it's kind of like, fits easily into a box, whereas this is a bit different. So they've been really supportive to us so far. which we've
Right,
been
so a
really
good
grateful for.
successful story with Meta and getting that feedback and that area. So you're looking to launch in Q2, you said?
Summer, yeah. So
Roughly.
we're going to
In
be,
summer,
yeah, we're just building out our full launch plan. So that's where we've got a load of development to do in the meantime, and then we'll be doing our like big bang, and then hopefully we will just we'll keep evolving it from there, because it's not unlike so we come back from narrative experiences where you make a product, you know exactly who it's for, you know exactly what you're doing before you make it, you plan it all out, then you make it, then you distribute it, and then you move on to the next thing. And this is like a completely different journey, because we don't exactly know what it is we're going to end up with. We don't exactly know who it's for. We kind of don't really know what we're doing, but we're just going to do it, and then we're just going to keep evolving with it, because now we have a baby to look after, instead of just going, here's a project,
it's crying,
put it
girl.
on the shelf.
It's crying, needs some change. Exactly. But I think like having that jump without a net approach is so important when you are working on projects, and I think that's good to be a little bit nimble. So we could have time for like 1 or 2 questions from the audience. Does anyone have anything? Boat guy. Down in front here, go ahead. And do you mind like saying, everyone could say their name and say hello?
Oh, hello, I'm Lawless.
I mean, I know who you are.
Okay. I just wanted to know, how do you even get on a hackathon with Meta? How did that even come around?
There are so Liam, our like dev co-founder, he came across it. So it was part of a dev post collaborative with Metathon. So I am not the techie person, so I'm not always on all the techie forums, but it was a collaboration between DevPost and Meta, who were wanting people to explore mixed reality. And he was like, oh, I'm going to do this thing. And we were like, cool, do it, let's play. And it was all virtual and online, so it's not in a real place.
And I really love the fact that you were saying there is an older audience, because I've been in VR chat. I don't know how many people have been in VR chat, but it's full of kids just running around causing mayhem, and you're like, where are all the adults? Where are the people that want to do cool stuff? And I think what you've done, I'm tired of hearing, oh, what's your market and how old are the people you're aiming for? And I'm glad that you've kind of kicked that out of the way, and you're able to just go, I'm developing this as I go, and I think that's really, really brilliant. So well done.
If you're on Discord, there is a VR over 40 Discord group. If you want to find out people, you can come join us there.
You don't qualify for that yet?
Oh, yes, I do.
Okay.
I'll get my driving license out.
I've also heard a tip in VR chat is to just make your avatar look really old and ugly, and no one comes and talks to you. So
Great. This is recorded live on AWE, ladies and gentlemen. Tips for the pros. Anyone else on this side? Anyone else? Oh, cool. Hi, Jerry. Yeah, go. Hey, Jerry.
Playlines developer Jerry Carpenter. You're live on air.
Hello.
Hi.
You know your pot plants. How did it recognize what state they're in order to be watered?
Well, we didn't.
Was that made up?
It's a little bit fake, yeah.
Awesome.
But that's not to say it can't be done. But we haven't actually gotten that far with it. But that's the aim of that.
Cool. No, I thought that was a fantastic bit of a thing to look at.
Thank you.
Cool. Anyone? Oh, we got down in front. Oh, I got this. We can double act Steve Dann.
There you go. You're live on air.
Thank you. Hi, my name's Yasmina. I just wanted to ask you, what was the hardest part for you to get it all like put together, launched, everything? What was the most challenging point? What would you say was the most challenging point for all of you together, or was it like each one of you separately? Like, how did you come together to like all of you make it into this now?
So collectively as a team, we work really well together, and we have done for years. So that was like by far the easiest bit. We all like balance each other out really well. The most difficult bit has definitely been dealing with the Meta dashboard, like the behind the scenes, and I love a dashboard. I love all of like the analytics. Yeah, like I love a good CMS. But this was probably the most challenging. There's a lot of information, and it's not always the easiest thing. So when you are going onto the Horizon store, you have to go through these things called the VRCs, your VR checks, and that was just like more complicated than it had to be, and it just makes you feel a bit stupid when you're like, I'm pressing all the right buttons, but why is it not like spitting out what it should do? So that was probably, yeah, on Christmas Day, the three of us really should have been with our families, but instead we were like, why is this not, have we done it? Have we done it? Is it done? What's going on? So yeah, that, and I think the timing of wanting to release pre-Christmas, they just had a massive backlog. So it kind of pushed our actual release plan. Just recently, I've had a friend who submitted something to the VR to the Horizon store, and I said, "Be warned, it can take weeks. You know, plan in advance." And he was like, "Okay, I've hit send." And then 4 hours later, he was like, "Grace, it's on the store," and I was just like, "Yeah." So timing is everything. If you're going to do it pre-Christmas, so is everyone else.
Wow. But is that? Do they actually have support over the holidays? They're Americans mostly.
Yeah, no, they were all on holiday. We were just like, we'll just press the button and see what happens. Like, we've got other things to do. And then they came to us and they were like, you're still like
dinner with your family, maybe?
Yeah, and because we didn't realize that you go in early access and then you have a release window afterwards. So we were like, well, we're going early access, but we thought we were released. And they were like, you're going to like go fully launch next week. And we were like, hang on, wait, aren't we already? What's going on? So there was some learning lessons there. But now we've learned how to push back our official launch date and what the difference is between the two, and yeah.
Amazing. Grace, thank you so much for sharing your story.
Thank you.
Huge round of applause. Huge round of applause. And who's up for having Grace back maybe in a couple months in the autumn after this? Yes. You're welcome. You're fam now. You're fam now too. So last but not least, we have our headline today, and I'm going to be my own roadie. Grab the book there. Oh, sorry.
Just while we're getting started, by the way, the XR hack for London is currently scheduled for May the 30th to June the 1st. It was here last year and it was a big success. So if you want to know how to get into an XR hack, I don't think there's any like formal qualification procedure, but yeah, it's really good and that's a good way to get started. Yeah, there we go.
I'm supposed to introduce you. Go over there.
The reveal.
Ladies and gentlemen, wait, this is...
Play my music.
Okay. Oh, wait, now I'm on. Hi, we're live. Hey, we're back live. Ladies and gentlemen, are we ready for our headline act?
We are.
Are we ready for our headliner? Yes. Okay, come on. We know what we're here for. This is a very, 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 very special night because not only is it a really wonderful, augmenting reality meetup, we've got the amazing swan song of Jeremy Dalton, and that's not the last thing you've seen of him. The amazing swan song. That sounded weird. Anyway, JD, we love you. We've got our community all around the world watching this through the power of the internet web and also through our Women in Immersive Tech communities. And earlier I was speaking about allies. And if you want like a definition of a Women in Immersive Tech ally, it is my pleasure to introduce my close personal showbiz friend, my colleague, the wonderfully talented, extraordinaire, Mr. Rob Morgan. Welcome him to the stage. I'm trying to, I like Oprah Book Club. I can't do it. I can't do Oprah Book Club. So, Mr. Rob Morgan, who's written a book, Storytelling for Spatial Computing and Mixed Reality. I knew what it was. I wasn't just like looking at it. Sorry, oh, that's right there. Yeah, sorry. Okay, guys. Mr. Rob Morgan, you've written a book. You've written a fucking book.
I know.
Look at, I'm holding it.
It took ages.
You've written a book. So Steve's gonna like talk through some slides here too. And so for those of you in this beautiful room that are not familiar with your work, so tell us the origin story. Who is Rob Morgan?
Okay.
Book one.
So I never want to like mythologize how I got going, but because augmented reality, virtual reality has changed so much in the course of the 12 years or so that I've been doing it, if I sort of try and give careers advice, it's not necessarily helpful because what happened to me was a product of really weird circumstances. And I was very fortunate as well as persistence and so forth. So I started work in London in the .com, in the sort of social media boom about 12 years ago when you could be a social media guru if you knew how to set up a Twitter account and you knew that it was free, for example. And so I learned how to hustle working for small media companies as a sort of digital dog's body. And then right place, right time, I started working for PlayStation as a junior producer. And I worked my way up to lead game writer and a voice director on augmented reality titles, which were for the Harry Potter license And they were brand new, not quite well. They were some of the first consumer augmented reality, which is what was interesting about them. And they gave me an opportunity to be in testing suites, watching people encounter augmented reality for the first time. And that was a really formative moment for me that we'll maybe talk about in a second. And then I also, while at PlayStation, was writing the early demos for PlayStation VR. I wrote the first playable demo for PlayStation VR back when it was still called the PlayStation Morpheus.
Oh, who remembers that?
Yeah, which was strange for me because my childhood nickname was Morphe.
What?
Yeah, that's a long story. But I went to a regular school in the north, and I went to university and did English. I'm not technical at all. I just always wanted to work in technology. And so I had got into just persistently working free, like unpaid internship jobs, but I wasn't from London, and it was hard to even get started. And I was both lucky as well as kind of in the right place at the right time. So then they didn't need a full-time writer at PlayStation anymore. They let me go, and so I was a specialist VR writer as a career freelance game writer, which is a hard road at the best of times, and certainly in VR before VR was really happening. I'm still a specialist VR writer. I've written a number of VR games, including A Fisherman's Tale, which won some awards and did well. But AR was my first love. So I started a studio called Playlines to make augmented reality theatre with a brilliant guy called Dustin Freeman, who did some of the early tech development for us. And then
in the room today, Rob.
Sadly not. No, he works for Mesa now. Sensible man, yeah. But then over like the course of, well, actually, if we skip to the first slide, I genuinely have forgotten what's on these photos.
You said you weren't from London,
very
though.
quickly.
Where are you from,
Oh,
Rob?
I'm from the Lake District. Yeah, there's my conversation
and
starter.
it's called?
I'm from a small town called Cockermouth. It's the mouth of the river
Are
Cocker.
you from Cockermouth, sir?
Hey! What, you're kidding.
That's your brother. It's your brother. You paid him.
Okay, we're going to have a chat about that later. You see?
No way!
See, it does exist. I'm not making it up. Okay, and then...
So now what year are we in now?
Okay, so this must have been like 2017, so I'd been working away as a freelance game writer for a while.
There's some people in the room in these photos, by the way.
Yeah.
Do you have consent?
That's a good point, yes. Sorry. Sorry if you're in the room. So I've been working away and trying to make it as a freelance game writer, and it was a hard road generally. And as a game writer, you tend to need a specialism. And the closest thing I had to a specialism was VR, but only a few VR games were being made, and they were all basically at the time the same game. It was a game about disempowerment because you didn't have much control in VR. So I did a lot of games where you were strapped to a chair, or you were a robot, or you were a robot whose head had been popped off and you were a disembodied head, or you were lying down and you were being autopsied. Lots of experiences about disempowerment.
Yeah.
But I'd fallen in love with AR while working at PlayStation because what was compelling to me was that the player and the protagonist were the same person, which wasn't true in any other kind of video game. Every other video game experience, by and large, was mediated through an avatar that you moved around on the screen and which represented some in-game identity. Whereas what excited me about augmented reality right from the jump was that players were seeing themselves on the screen. In the case of the earlier AR PlayStation games, you were sat in front of your TV with this cardboard book peripheral that came in the box, and then you were sat in front of the camera, and your TV screen was showing a live feed of you, like a mirror, in your living room. And we were just adding augmented reality graphics onto the surface of this book. So the protagonist of these games was yourself. These games set in the wizarding world. And so suddenly we were creating a slightly augmented version of you, the player, but one where you were a wizard, which was an imaginative fantasy that lots of people were able to get to without it being a huge imaginative jump. Suddenly I was realizing that if you have just enough storytelling to season over people's experiences, you don't actually need that much technology. And so I got really into the idea of making immersive theater with augmented reality audio.
Yes.
So the early Playlines projects.
I'm familiar with your work.
And this is when I first started working with Muki, who I was really, really fortunate to meet and be introduced to by a now very sadly departed friend called Tanya Laird.
Yes, I think so many of us are connected here, so we see you, T-Bird, obviously helping out Steve Dann. And I wouldn't have met Steve without Tanya and so many people in this room. So we thank her for booking us on a panel at probably a games, GDC style.
Probably 2015, 2014.
Yeah, 2015, 14. And I remember Rob came like we didn't know each other that well, just like through the speaking circuit or
No,
something. Just
she
came, like-
introduced us, and then like within about 10 minutes, we were on a podcast together.
That's true.
That was
yes.
Tanya.
Are you free? When? Now? What are we
Now.
talking about? I don't know. Quick, you're on air.
But the
how-
recorder started. Let's go.
That's how it ran. That's how we used to roll. But I
Yeah.
just remember it was what was it? It was called XR back then, like in 2015 at the Business Design Center.
Yeah.
I just remember like coming over and be like, I've got a project about music. I'm like, I'm in. It's fine. I'm that big of a fan of Rob Morgan. He doesn't send me a brief. The brief is, are you free? Yes, I am 1,000%. So.
It's a scary place to be.
Yes, the start of our beautiful working relationship.
Yeah.
And one of the first projects in Play Lines was an amazing project called Consequences.
That's
So
right.
for me, my background is MTV, BBC, and worked across the board in pop culture, but mostly in the music industry world.
Yeah.
So for me, dream gig, one working with you, but also with the amazing Harry Schotter.
Harry Schotter, and in fact, David Ross, Harry's manager, is in the room, which is
It's a very showbiz room, ladies and
It
gentlemen.
is.
We have a very
Thank you so much.
cockamouth and
So,
Harry Schotter.
I mean, this was to try and make good on the promise of the idea that you could create a layer of digital narrative over a location. I wanted to test the idea that you could make a full-length augmented reality narrative experience, and I wanted to try it out before the hologram headsets turned up, because I thought that would eventually happen, but who knows how long that was going to take. This was about 2017, 2018 now. So we went to a festival called Future of Storytelling in New York, which is where these delightful photos were taken. No explanation for the beard, sorry about that. But this was about the idea that you could make augmented reality by just creating layers of audio, which the user would then explore by walking through a real place. User walks up to the venue, they pop on their headphones, they download the app to their phone goes in their pocket, they're not looking at the screen, and they just walk through the environment. And then we'd seeded the environment with Bluetooth iBeacons, which detected the presence of the phone, and then allowed the phone to play different audio tracks depending on where you were. Basically like a museum audio tour, except from that simple foundation, instead of typing in the code like in an old-fashioned museum tour to say where you are, the beacons meant that we knew where you are, so we could trigger audio seamlessly as you walked into the right room. But that also meant, with a very simple game engine in the back end, you could then create a branching narrative, a layer of branching narrative overlaid over a place where the user could walk in and hear a voice, footsteps receding off in that direction, or a voice going, yes, come on, let's go and do some drugs in the toilets. And you could choose where to go. Yeah. You could choose where to go by physically moving into the venue. And then the opportunities came up to work with this amazing, incredible rapper, who I believe may still, certainly at the time, held the Guinness World Record for fastest raps
He does
in
still,
any
doesn't
song.
he?
And he wrote us, and I didn't think it could be done, he wrote us a 60-minute choose-your-own-adventure rap opera with four different endings. It's amazing.
It was a concept
Yeah,
album.
it was, and it told the story of a night out.
Yes, but what it did is provide you the fuel for your big giant brain to do experience design.
Yeah.
And just design options for a player.
Yeah.
Which in your book, obviously, it is an Oprah moment, isn't it? In your book. You call it, but that's what I always love about, because we're talking about the audience, the fan, the user, and what I love about, you talk about the player.
Right.
And that to me makes it come alive, even when we're whiteboarded, we've got Post-it notes all over the wall. What is the path this player would take? So with Harry Schotter writing a concept album that basically, enabled somebody to put on old-fashioned kind of Walkman headphones. This is real. This is not like a Photoshop, and become a player, a character in this rap album, and you were able to, like Rob said, listen and choose. So in a traditional kind of hip hop and rap album, you have a lot of characters talking at you. There's a lot of voices, and it's noisy, and it's a crazy place, but you're a part of it. So you're able to kind of turn right and, like you said, go down a chill-out room or go to the toilet or all these things. But what was awesome about it, again, for me being kind of totally live, interactive, immersive person, all of the players had their own path, and it was a choose-your-own-adventure. But at the end, everyone ended up in a big, giant room, and there was a live PA rap show, and it was a party. And that's what was so nice about it, that you still gave people an option to choose their own adventure, but you brought people back together as well.
I guess
too.
that's what was always exciting for me about AR, right? Because unlike VR, where any social experience that you're having is fundamentally remote, which is interesting and is great for allowing people to get to know people all over the world. AR takes place in the real world, and so it can enhance experiences that are in the real world, but it also shouldn't try and overwrite those experiences in the real world. That's one of the fundamental ideas in the book, that you're going to try and, it's hard enough to build experiences that take place in the real world because reality is really unpredictable, but it's also the most exciting artistic medium that there is, in my opinion. But it also means that the people who are there are real, and the social dynamics that are going on are real. The risk of being embarrassed because you're walking around wearing technology on your face is really real. But even that self-consciousness can be an asset that can actually drive immersion rather than driving you away from immersion, if you get it right. There's a whole bit in the book about it. But I always wanted to use the social dynamics. That's why it was so much fun to get to do an experience that was about being in a club, because that's a social experience where the other people around you are fellow players, but they also then become performers in your experience because they build up a sense that you're part of a crowd. And that's an emotion that you can't really get anywhere else, and that's very, very hard to virtualize. So at the core of Consequences, you got to make choices, but then all of those choices ultimately led, like you said, back to the same place. But it also, we needed to be able to say, hey, you, to address you, because you were the protagonist. And so we also didn't want to impose a gender or any kind of identity on you. And so we're navigating, like, how do we talk to you? How do we say, hey, you? How do characters come up to you and say, hey, I know who you are. You have a backstory. And it was Harry who solved the problem by just saying, we'll just call them player. That was your nickname because that you were kind of the backstory of your protagonist character. You're the lead, but also your backstory as a character in this game was that you were kind of a player.
Instead of saying, hey, it was yo!
Yeah,
like, right,
it was player.
Yeah, 100%. But that led us to an amazing relationship with Bose.
Oh, yeah.
So, like, hands up, did anyone have the Bose frames, the sunglasses that were audio, weren't bone conduction?
They were a nice piece of hardware.
They were simple. They had a product design, of course. George, if you didn't have them, I'd be so disappointed. Loser. No, but I mean, I think, that was great, thanks to the Rain Dance film festival. So we had this whole journey that was a year, and we're going to kind of like, touch on these important parts because it does, what you reveal in this book is a little bit of your secret sauce and behind the scenes and helping guide people. Like this book is a guide for thinking about story, thinking about narrative, thinking about the player, thinking about that design, thinking about spatial audio, the importance of audio, the importance of listening as a user, as a player. That we had a big journey of almost 2 years working with Bose, Rain Dance Film Festival, Beyond Festival in Finland. We kind of went in so many parts of the world, and we were about to get a sponsor and tour in January 2020.
Yeah.
And that happened.
Steve, if you skip through to the next one.
So just give us some light touches on the rest of our work. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so...
We Are the Plague. Thanks
so
for
again,
picking that photo, Rob.
Yeah, right place, right time. So we ended up being... So this is with my studio Playlines, which then had been going for 3 years or so, and I'm so unbelievably touched that several of the key people who made it what it was are here tonight, which is wonderful.
Well, they're crying right now.
Yeah, well, I wouldn't be here without several.
Don't cry, because I'll cry.
So, yeah,
don't cry. Okay.
We talked
we
about
agreed
this.
not to cry.
Pandemic.
So
the venues shut, and the opportunity to make drama in AR, to make narrative, kind of dried up for a bit. But sort of from talking to the right people, we ended up being digital artists in residence at the National Gallery, which is a great opportunity and an opportunity to actually continue to pay people during the pandemic, even a little bit, which I was very grateful for the chance to do. And we had an opportunity to make augmented reality apps for curators at National Gallery. This is Jerry, I think, our developer, you want a talented augmented reality developer. Jerry Carpenter is
He's
the man.
concerned about plants and augmented reality too.
This is him prototyping in his back garden. This is what prototyping looked like in the pandemic. This is a TV in my parents' house that was displaying a QR code that we were then superimposing a painting onto. And again, this is what the Playlines Christmas party looked like in December 2020. Muki's mask says, "We are the plague."
I was doing a recce in Chinatown.
Oh, I forgot.
I was the only person in frickin' London. Nobody was around for a while.
It was an opportunity. It's less relevant to the book in the sense that these were projects that weren't about storytelling. But what they taught me about augmented reality was that the magical thing was that once you start adding information into the digital layer, then you're no longer constrained by the spatial dimensions of physical space. So the solution that we ended up making for National Gallery was that you could have multiple channels of curation assigned to the same artistic artifact. This was at a time when Black Lives Matter was happening on Trafalgar Square, right in front of the National Gallery, where they were struggling with downward pressure from a government with an agenda to effectively not decolonize their collections, not talk about the issues behind some aspects of their collections, colonial aspects behind their collections. Where curators often wanted to talk about these issues, but then there were complex issues because the traditional role of a museum has been to digest complex debates happening among scholars behind the scenes into like a single label that might be 55 words long. In museum parlance, the label next to a painting is called the tombstone because it contains so little information. 55 words is not a lot of words for nuance about the provenance of a collection or the fact that maybe we nicked it at bayonet point from people.
We had to think about these things though, and it's like even though these were like prototypes that did lead to the augmented gallery and actually going to market during a pandemic, four failed launches. If anyone was launching anything during 2021, you totally understand what it's like.
Well, skip ahead. Those are the real ones. So we ended up with this tool that allowed you to. Sorry, if you go to the next one, Steve. Thank you. So basically we ended up.
My picture. I'm here.
Well, because we're right here.
Okay.
We ended up with a tool that allowed you to look at a painting on a wall or digitally superimpose a painting on a wall, and then you could navigate or swipe between different curatorial interpretations of that painting, kind of guided tours of that painting with little colored hotspots, almost like being able to speed date or swipe in a dating app between different curators for that painting in order to be able to go through different curations, different cultural interpretations, different perspectives on that painting. That might be one curator talking about the post-colonial aspects of it, one curator just talking about it from a modern art perspective.
And then James Acaster.
Right. Which, we were amazingly lucky to get because we then got commissioned to use the same technology to make outdoor art galleries for the National Gallery, Royal Academy, National Portrait Gallery, and Sky Arts.
Portrait Artists of the Year.
But ultimately, that takes us more or less to the point where I've been asked to write the book. So Routledge approached me.
Well, don't skip King's College, but
Well, all right,
Ultimately, we were able to
wear many hats.
Go to market and launch a few things, have a great relationship with the National Gallery, and part of that was through the King's College and National Gallery X. Does anyone remember the National Gallery X? You have some nodding heads. Well, again, that was like January 2020, and it was like right next to, if you go to approach the National Gallery, you go to the Sainsbury's wing on the left, then go through those gates, and it used to be a curry house, and that would have been like our studio, and kind of we were going to do a full installation of consequences and this and all kinds of things, and that was January 2020. Again, big things ahead, but that led you into working closely with King's College, doing a lot of lecturing, even more and more research, but tell it, obviously. Okay,
this was the Augmented Gallery, that was launching then, and this is the team of Play.
Look at your hair, bro.
I know, lockdown was a strange time for all of us, okay?
That's right. And Anna and Frode are in the room too, so we got to give a little shout out there too. But I think, obviously you've had a long, you're a brilliant speaker, a brilliant guest lecturer as well, and also one of my favorite experienced design people that I've ever worked with. And you working closely within research and really keeping your eye on it and listening to people about those students or what's happening with software, hardware, those products. Does lead you to be thinking, I'm writing a lot. Obviously, we've written a lot of reports together. You've written a lot more reports than I have. We've been a part of a lot of research groups over the years. And I need to know, the burning question in the room is, how long has this been festering in your brain?
So
you wrote a freaking book.
Yeah, I really like teaching. You can get it for 20% off. Or I'm selling hard copies after this.
Yes, in the foyer.
Yeah, in the foyer.
Foyer?
In the foyer.
The forager, the foyer.
It's the foyer.
Foyer.
Yeah.
Froyo.
I was really motivated to pass on some of what I'd learned because it was hard enough for me, and I'm the white guy, right? And I had to be both lucky and to develop all kinds of skills that are all over the place because it was such early days for augmented reality. And I wanted to look forward to a time where it was possible to be a specialist storyteller in augmented reality without having to learn how to do payroll and how to produce and learning how to pitch and learning how to do everything. I learned everything except how to code and draw, two things that I can't do. But there were a huge amount of stuff that went into it. But I had been in the games industry during a transitional time where it was, for the first time, I was kind of part of the first generation where it was possible to be a game writer without having to come up through design or code or QA or something. I could just be a game writer. And I wanted to look forward to a time where there was such a thing as a specialist storyteller in augmented reality. Now, in fact, what we're seeing now is storytellers in augmented reality are often those who have skills all the way across the board, the kind of unicorns that Anna was talking about. And by the way, just as a point of, like, again, not mythologizing how this stuff is done, that term unicorns can be really celebratory, but it could also be kind of intimidating because I suffer from imposter syndrome all the time. And it could be really easy to conclude that if you were going to turn out to be some sort of unicorn, you'd probably already know it, right? Those people must feel special.
They're magical,
somehow, right? You must know. You must be able to see the horn in the mirror. But those people don't know until people start talking about them like that. And if my career's taught me anything, it's that you need to have a mix of persistence and luck and support from people, which is why it's so important to be nice to people. As much as you can. But it's really important to lean into your own strengths and to have faith that if you are as likely to be a unicorn as anybody else because they've had to work hard and feel insecure and feel like they don't belong either. And never let that give you the sense or create the impression that there's people who are somehow more suited to turning out to being magical flying success story Pegasuses.
But part of that also, curiosity is also a huge, huge part of that too. So if you're curious about learning something or doing something, and and again, using this as like a little bit of a guide. Yeah. This title, obviously, we've gone back and forth like storytelling for spatial computing and mixed reality, the art of augmenting imagination. The reason why I keep looking at it because I know the original title was the art of augmenting imagination.
It was just augmenting imagination.
I know, I remember.
But
They
told me that the title of a book in this day of AI-driven SEO, the title of a book has to do what it says on the tin.
Right.
So it has to do that. But also,
and make it really tricky to say out loud.
Bear in mind that when I pitched it, sort of 2 years ago now, 2.5 years ago, I still had the word metaverse in the title. Because I grit my teeth and I put the word metaverse in. And I said in the email, I really doubt we're still going to be using this buzzword by the time the book comes out.
And what did I say?
Yeah, you said
don't.
Yeah, don't at all.
Stay away.
I wanted to pass on those skills, and basically the book is a primer on how to update storytelling techniques, some of which go back to like Aristotle, the original narrative nerd, and how to just adapt them even slightly to the fact that augmented reality creates a very different relationship between the author and the audience and the context. And the context is now so important because augmented reality takes place in the real world. But the other thing that motivated me, because the book, I'm not going to pretend that it isn't, it's a little bit of a manifesto as well, because I was also really motivated to try to write about the responsibilities of the storyteller in augmented reality. I think storytellers have always had a lot of responsibility because they've always had the ability to affect people's reality. If you're good with narrative, then you can influence people's perceptions in ways that can be very persuasive and pervasive. But that's always been true.
Yeah.
But when we're getting into now genuinely being able to talk about customizing people's realities, to be able to start talking about technology that 5 or 6 years from now will be all-day wear, which will provide a pervasive interface over reality, which is designed to make life more useful or more adventurous or more filled with Pokemon. That has potentially huge impacts on the way that people see the world. I talk about Don Quixote a lot because literally the oldest novel written in Europe, arguably, asterisk, arguably, is about a guy who read too many chivalric poems and started seeing the world as a heroic place. But he didn't do that because it was realistic. And I often argue that realism is a bit of a red herring in immersive stuff. Just look at Gorilla Tag. It's incredibly compelling and immersive, but it's not realistic. Don Quixote chose to see the world in a way that gave him a purpose, that made him a knight, that made the world more exciting and gave him a reason for being in a world which otherwise thought he was kind of ridiculous and pointless. And I think the same is true of augmented reality, that it can be really intoxicating because it can give you a sense of objective. It can put a Pikachu on the street corner and give you an objective to go chasing after it. Fantastic. But you know, we have to consider what an ideologically driven augmented reality might look like and the impact that it might start to have on people's perceptions if they choose to dwell within a customized reality that is designed to make the world seem a certain way or depict other people as NPCs or game enemies or orcs or demons or something. And the really scary part is how we get from here the hypothetical augmented reality, the augmented reality that we have now, how we get to the dream of being able to step out of any front door and walk into any street and be able to walk into a reskinned version of that street that looks like a Victorian gas lamp fantasy or that looks like it's Nintendo everywhere. How we get from here to there is AI, and that means we might not be completely in control of these fantastical world versions that we choose to live in. And that's then getting a bit dystopian. I worked in VR for a long time, and I was never a believer in the idea of a virtual reality dystopia in which you go into the headset and you forget what's real because, you know, what you're seeing is so fascinating. We're a long way off still.
Ready Player who?
Right, well, we're a long way off headsets that can genuinely fool our senses all the time into thinking we're seeing something that's real. But people just being fooled into thinking fake things are real, that's never been the problem. The problem has been people who choose to live in selective versions of reality. And augmented reality technology has the capacity to make that happen in a really big way that might have dramatic impacts on our social fabric, in the same way that the internet has already created ideological filter bubbles that cause people to live in realities of their choosing, realities that you can construct out of conspiracy theories, for example. So
what he's saying, don't be a dick.
Well, so that is that, yeah. Last sentence of the book.
So what you're actually saying is, this is how we work together anyway. Bob's deep thing. I go, what he's saying, get some,
to be
get
fair,
some sequence on.
Most of the
do
book
some
is about writing techniques, but I can't talk about this stuff now without talking about this element as well.
But you know, it is about representation. It's about taking that responsibility, and it's about, you know, thinking about your player, thinking about, you know, how you are designing, and ultimately that is about inclusivity, non-bias, non-prejudice, and so really having to think about that. You know, when you divide this up into, you know, that breakdown between
players and places.
The players and places.
Right.
So let's talk about that, because it is kind of a book of two stories almost.
Yeah.
The augmented player and the augmented places. So if you give us two shorter summaries, and then we can go into that.
Yeah, so the book is split. It has an introductory section with definitions and so forth, and there's a chunk about learning about virtual reality, what we can learn from VR in terms of augmented reality storytelling, which is a surprising amount. And then there's two big chunks. There's augmenting players and augmenting places. So that distinction seemed important because augmenting players, I think, is the starting point. Because no matter what kind of graphics you're putting into reality, ultimately, I think an augmented reality story starts inside the player. Because you're telling them that they have a slightly different relationship to the world around them, whatever that is. That narrative might be very, very simple, or it might be completely reskinning the world in a new way. But for me, I think that in the same way that the audience has to come into the theater before they even start watching a play, you have to find ways to bring your audience member into whatever version, whatever augmented reality version of the world you're showing them. They have to feel like they are part of that world before the story really starts. Because what I learned all those years ago in PlayStation, sitting behind a double mirror, watching players encounter augmented reality for the first time, was that they were ready to be the protagonist of this story. In the case of a Wizarding World story, it was because they were ready to jump into the fantasy of being a wizard. I wrote a line for that game very early on in the game that said, come on, open the book, are you a wizard or not? An audience, like kids, were answering back and saying, yes, yes, I am. Yeah, I'm a wizard. Okay, let's do this. They were so ready to jump into that because we all live a pretty active, imaginative inner life. And that informs how we relate to the world around us, if we let it. That's called play, right? We're all supposed to have grown out of that. But I think, midway through my career, Pokemon Go launched, and finally people understood what the hell it was I was talking about. Finally, there was augmented reality. Oh, yeah, interesting. I've been having this conversation with people for years, and they looked at me like the proverbial dog that's been shown a card trick. But I finally had an opportunity to talk not just about what AR could look like, but what it would look like for people playing it on the street, which is going out and seeing fellow nerds, being fellow nerds, spotting a critical mass of other nerds. If you were around in that first summer, 2016, of Pokemon Go, the experience was partly compelling because of what you were seeing on the screen. It was partly compelling because of the way that it caused a new way to relate to your neighborhood, which is a big part of what's compelling about augmented reality. It gave you an identity, a just slightly adjusted version of your identity, which was you're a Pokemon trainer. That was a fantasy that people were already primed to be part of. Fantastic. But it also allowed them to see other people out there being nerdy themselves and playing along and making believe. And seeing other people making believe in public, which can be scary, like seeing other people going along, it takes the risk out.
But that's part of augmenting imagination.
Yeah,
and that's where really that subtitle is beating through, the beating pulse and spine of this book, obviously, too. And I think there's also things to touch on around, that location agnostic versus location specific. So, like, when you're staging that as a designer, specifically, and, this is mentioned in here, too, what are those first steps that somebody needs to think of?
So that's the thing. You do augmenting the player, you get them in character, you figure out how to make them part of the story, and then you stage a story around them. Now that might be on a tabletop in front of them, or it might be in the room, in their living room, or whatever it is, or it might be out on the street. But the first thing they have to determine, which is broken down in the book, is the difference between an experience that's location agnostic and location specific. So location agnostic means you don't know where the location is, like Pokemon Go, which works anywhere. The downsides of location agnostic for storytelling is that it can feel a little vague. It's not easy to make a story that feels specific to the location where you are if you don't know enough details about that place. Again, this is where AI might come in, because if you're able to look at and infer details about the world around you, there's a Burger King over there, there's a forest over there, you might be able to start telling procedural stories about that place. Or you have a location-specific approach, where it's closer to immersive theater. You know the environment that you're putting the player into, and so you can tell a pretty specific experience about that. You can design a story for that place, for the shape of that place, for the mood of that place. The problem is that right now, most augmented reality experiences are being built for people's own homes and their living rooms, which is
that a problem?
Well, it means that actually it's not a problem, because it means we're kind of learning to do both at the same time, because people's living rooms, people's homes have similar general, common, generic qualities. People feel a certain way about their homes, which I think is why experiences like The Cabin, Home Invasion, where you're defending your home against zombies that are breaking in through the windows, or a brilliant mixed reality experience called Hauntify, which puts ghosts and ghouls in the layout of your house and they follow you around. There's an emotional connection to doing it in your home, because people feel a certain way. You can exploit that specific aspect of people's homes to create a narrative that takes place in their home and that then has really, really big emotional impact. But people's homes are very different all over the world, and so you're designing for a space where you know relatively little about it. So whether you're designing an experience like IO, which is a game to be played in people's homes, but the layout is completely different, and so the affordances of that game are completely different. Like if you were going to have an IO tournament, people couldn't play it at home, right? Because they'd be in different shapes of rooms and the affordances would be different. But it means that right now we're learning about how to design and stage stories in these places. But honestly, because we started making location-based experiences outdoors, the augmented reality experiences that I get most excited about are often those that are taking place outdoors, that are extending that Pokemon Go model either to an immersive theater experience where you're moving across a large amount of space, getting out of the home and out into real space. Because I think it's when you are living in a partially fictionalized version of the real streets around you, or a museum, or an art gallery, or a music venue, or a park, that's when you're really out there making believe, and where you have so many powerful emotions at play, like the fact that other people around you might think that you're kind of a weirdo. But if you can tell the right kind of story, even that emotion can be incorporated into the player protagonist story, and even that can drive their immersion.
So it's not location agnostic or location specific, because you're still thinking about that player too.
Right.
So, I mean, we're talking about storytelling for spatial computing and mixed reality, or is it spatial computing and mixed reality for storytelling?
So I don't lose a lot of sleep over these definitions.
I do, Rob.
I know. And Grace gave a good definition of the difference between augmented and mixed reality early on, for example. But I wanted to get spatial computing and mixed reality and augmented into the title just because it has to meet the SEO. I have used these buzzwords differently to different people, and sometimes differently even in the same meeting, because ultimately what matters is that these words are going to communicate what the audience who's listening to you thinks they mean. We can insist on rigid definitions for them, but I've been doing this for a while, and I've seen the definitions change a lot, because those terms are actually functions of hype. And so Apple brought back spatial computing, which was a 20-year-old buzzword, because they wanted to differentiate their products from other things that had gone before. There's a good argument for describing what they were doing as spatial computing, but there's a good argument for describing other technologies as that as well. We have to understand that these terms exist and change partly because technology changes, but a lot of the time we have to keep abreast of these terms because marketeers use them in order to differentiate their products from the competition, which is why if you're uncertain about the difference between augmented reality and mixed reality and XR, it's because it's confusing.
But they are actual production terms that are real.
They are,
so,
and they are real, but they are also still shifting. And we're not even done with the metaverse.
Wait for the quantum.
Mark my words, that buzzword is going to come back. Zuckerberg will prove himself right about the metaverse come hell or high water.
Yes, I'm just conscious. I think we have this room for 5 more minutes.
Let's go.
No, we're a little bit running over. So, and we do want a couple questions from the audience too. So
now everyone agrees with me.
Yeah, no. Well, we have a pub booked next door for as part of your launch party.
Well, then so, let me end on that note then, because
we're not. No.
Well, all right. The book starts and ends with the phrase "prove me wrong," because as you may have already pointed out, you may already be thinking it's actually a bit early to be trying to write a manual that locks down storytelling principles for augmented reality, right? Because augmented reality isn't really even fully here yet. But that was kind of the point, because I'd been doing it the hard way for 10 years, and I wanted to pass on what I'd learned through that process. But no fooling, it's the people who are growing up in mixed reality now who are going to be the first native storytellers for this medium. I wanted to provide some tools and experiences and point out some pitfalls that I'd fallen into to help equip those people to become storytellers in this medium, but nothing in the book is intended to be definitive or exhaustive, because there would be no point. I want people who read the book to go out and productively and creatively prove me wrong. Nothing would make me happier, because that's how we're going to move this industry forward.
Rob Morgan. Right. Now, I actually have, I think it's about 47 more questions. Right? And I hope you don't mind. No, but I think it's like, what is, that kind of just answered, like, what is the ultimate goal of this book? We know why you wrote it, it's been burning, but we know that if anyone that's ever, we're working in this space, and anyone that has written a book know that it's never the first book. You have to make iterations. Jeremy's nodding his head. 2.0 is coming out on your one. Don't worry, your fireside chat is next, my friend. And I think it's like ultimately, this book probably challenged you more than anyone else, rather than
it's really
the
hard
readers
to write a book, it turns out.
And the audience as well too. So we know that there's so many points in here. I didn't just put these in here for fun, because I did obviously read approve of it, and we're living it. And you are very generous throughout this book, mentioning so many people's names in the industry and folks that you've worked with and everything too.
Shoulders
so
of giants, mate.
Well, do you know what? We're all in this together, and we say this at every meetup, but we're all part of the same community, and one for all. So we're gonna do we're gonna go throw to the audience for a couple questions. So we got the mics ready. We're gonna do a quick game of true or false. Ready?
Oh no.
Tell me when to stop.
Stop.
Tell me to stop.
Stop.
Okay. This is the fun part. Okay. Okay. Shor's principle, third principle of interactive narrative geography, is the disguise of the edges of the map from the player so that the little player does not feel claustrophobic. True or false?
Not sure about the little player, but yeah.
I don't have my glasses on.
It's
So
Emily
look like
Short, the great interactive fiction designer, who wrote a brilliant article about how to lay out the physical geography of a interactive fiction space, which is a great influence on how you stage immersive narratives into real space. For example, you have to know where the boundaries are, but you also have to be able to explain why those boundaries are there in the story, because in augmented reality, you can't create a glass tunnel like in a video game where you just eventually keep walking until you hit a glass wall and you can't go any further. Reality continues off in every direction. So if you're going to bound the space of an augmented reality narrative, a spatio narrative, if it's going to be within limited parameters, then you have to be able to explain why the story doesn't reach any further beyond those parameters. Maybe that's the extent of the contagion or the extent of the magical garden that you're having to deal with. Or
I'm happy
whatever.
to say that's true. That's
Imagine.
true, sir. And
Okay,
that's
great.
under the headline, the general augmented staging boundaries. Okay, one more, and then we're going to go to the audience. Identity discovery. So the physical embodiment even, oh, I can't read that one. No, okay. Dignet
No, that was a
enforcing
spoiler.
Well, oh, was it? Okay,
Oh,
no.
don't worry.
Okay, if you're no, I'm just joking. You know, I can just do this all night. So I would really love to open the floor to the audience. Richard, how are you?
Yeah.
And obviously, like we are amongst friends in this room, so please tell us your name and kind of where you're coming from.
Hello, Marusha,
Hi, Marusha.
researcher in Immersive. Love the book. I'm still reading it. And as someone who's still reading it, I wanted to ask you, how do you want people to read it? How do you see people reading it?
Pencil in
and who's
hand.
your ideal?
Yeah, red pen in hand. I would
What about
really.
pink marker?
Well, yeah. I would really like to know bits that you disagree with. The point of the book, there's 25 exercises, challenges in it, homework. I like setting homework. And the point of those is so that you, readers of the book, kind of have almost like a little MA module in a box, because it will take you through a series of exercises where you go and actually implement the principle of whatever we talked about in that chapter or whatever. I tried not to go too many paragraphs without introducing one of these challenges to say, okay, I've waffled on, it's quite enough out of me. Go and try out these ideas for yourself in your local park, or using a voice note, or hypothesizing on paper about an augmented reality experience set on your coffee table. Go and try these ideas out, because what I want, my objective, is that people can find their own spatial storytelling voice, and that they go and it's helpful to them in terms of developing their own sense of how this stuff should work. And that means if they leave behind some of the things that I've said, or they end up stridently disagreeing with me, fantastic.
I would like to see anyone strident in this room, like stridently. That's cool.
Yeah.
That's a great question and even a greater answer there too. Anyone else? We got one more over here. And come on, boatman. Sorry, Steve, we're getting his step count in. By the way, we will be going to All Bar One right next door here. We've got some tables booked. We're going to make a party. That's what it's about. Thank you for staying in this room for so long. We realize it's
we'll go to the pub. But just very, very quickly, if any of the ethical implications of augmented reality, if that matters to you, if you started worrying about the dystopian applications of augmented reality as well, like I have for a while, Alina from XR for Human is here, which is one of the European initiatives trying to create codes of conduct for ethical conduct in augmented reality. Through fantastic work. Go and grab it, Alina, after this, or look up XR4, number 4, Human. They're doing really valuable work that has to be done.
Give us a wave. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Sir, your question, please. Tell
Thanks.
us your name
Hi.
and your blood type.
I'm James. I'm not going to tell you my blood
Okay.
type because
Well,
I
just
own
in
that
case
data.
you need some help. I don't know.
My letter already knows.
Yes. Thanks to that patch thing from earlier. This is a bit of an open-ended question, so I apologize for doing it last minute. But as augmented reality and spatial computing become more commercializable, and we get more people who are not necessarily native storytellers trying to start studios to commercialialize that, I guess my question is, how are you thinking about that? But more specifically, what advice would you give to somebody who isn't, to a studio that is starting, about when to bring in a storyteller to their process? Because I've seen it done quite late in the process, and it generally ends up not going well.
I think that
More nodding heads in the front row.
I think that you can patch in a script quite late, but you can't patch in empathetic design. And that ultimately is what a storyteller is going to get you. Now, you may well find that your team is full of storytellers already. Most people who are good at designing, for example, intuitive augmented reality interfaces are already quite empathic people and who are able to put themselves in the place of multiple different users and imagine how they're going to encounter the world in lots of different ways. But you can't patch in an empathetic situation, one that inspires empathy, because ultimately that's what's going to drive a good narrative. And if there's one lesson from the book, it's that empathy drives storytelling, but augmented reality could easily be used as a tool that actually diminishes empathy. It could allow us to filter our perceptions of one another and choose to see one another in an edited way. Or we might end up living in a world that's mediated by, you know, X rose-tinted spectacles that are being mediated for us by an algorithm. I think that you need to look really hard at your team and your concept and try and work out if it has an emotional core baked in that you actually care about. Because you can hire somebody to do that if that's what you want. If what you have is a cool mechanic, great. But you want it to sing and you want it to kind of have an emotional impact and to tell a story. Bring in a storyteller. But if you can look at your mechanic and you think, I like this because it makes people feel a certain way, then you are already maybe the storyteller that your team needs, and then just, you know, hire somebody like me to write the script because we need the work.
I was just going to say, just get Rob Morgan in.
Early, from day one,
Solid gold.
absolutely. Yeah,
Solid
yeah.
gold. I get
But-
90% commission.
But immersive is inherently multidisciplinary, and that means that almost everybody on the team has to be a storyteller to one extent or another. And I think that's a hallmark of good immersive teams. So take that seriously, but also talk about what you want the player to feel and get on the same page about that. And then, if you do hire a writer, you'll be able to explain to them what you want them to write.
And they'll bring that to life.
Yeah.
Traditionally, too. Thank you. Great question. Lois.
It's boiling in here. Shall we?
We're nearly pub time.
Yeah.
Are there any questions on this side brewing? Okay, one here and one in the middle. Cool, thanks. So Lawless first. Oh, wait. This way, Steve. Right there. What, man?
It's me again, Lawless. Rob, I want to know that once the book is released, will you do another kind of fireside chat so people can really kind of touch
It's
base on
actually
it?
been out for a little while.
Because you won.
The thing about publishing is that it's
like December, dude.
I know, but it's actually been out for a little while. You just have to designate a date that you're calling the launch. I'm giving the secret away now, but you can now buy it. Go buy it. But some people have indeed bought it.
And there will be a book signing in the forum.
But I would also, the dream is to be able to do a second edition to incorporate more of developments that have happened since and more of what other people have done with this technology, because that's the point.
I mean, it'll be great, though. You'll be able to kind of maybe gather case studies from people that have learned from it.
Exactly.
And see where those learnings
And if you have a project that disagrees with
You go,
something
look
that
at
I've
it,
said,
I'm going to be one of them.
if you've proved me wrong,
You're a constant treadmill of creativity.
exactly. If you've proved me wrong on some key principle that I've stridently talked about in the book, tell me about it, because then I'll try and incorporate it into the second edition.
Amazing, thank you. And Anna's next. We got Mike here, and then right in the middle of the glass.
Yeah, thank you for the presentation. I'm a big fan of mixed reality and augmented reality, much more than VR, but don't tell that to my students. So my question is around the technology that we use for mixed reality. So now we're all passionate about the headsets, but the hero of augmented reality is the phone ultimately, right? So do you think that the more we learn about the storytelling for spatial mixed reality, augmented reality, will we ever return to the phone as and what's your thought on this wonderful accessible technology that everybody has?
It's a good question.
Or
And
will
actually,
they fuck the phone, go.
No. I think something that informs my work a lot is that I was in the games industry at a time when we were at the PlayStation. We were planning for PlayStation on 3D TVs. End of PlayStation 3 life cycle 2012. We were planning for 3D TVs. Remember 3D TVs? No, because they didn't fucking happen, did they? No, because
I
people
work for a broadcasting convention.
People don't want to go home and put on glasses that buzz that you have to remember to put the batteries in order to watch a
Ultra
slightly
HD.
enhanced version of a TV, because it's inconvenient, it's a faff, and ultimately the games industry thought the same logic would hold that had held since the 80s, which was better graphics, bigger screens would gradually get better and better, that the same arms race would just continue over time, and that ultimately that's what would continue to sell games, but would sell games fundamentally to the same demographic, right? But what actually came along and ate conventional video gaming's lunch and made us all panic at PlayStation was that mobile gaming was already happening. iPhone came along, and suddenly it made games that fit in your pocket and fit around your everyday life, that were convenient and contextual. That's what brought in billions of new users and new demographics. It brought in a lot more women, for example.
Democratization.
It brought in older audiences. It brought in younger audiences. And I think we have a comparable situation with augmented reality. I think augmented reality is going to be more relevant to people's lives because it fits in your everyday walk to the shops, rather than being an entertainment cave that you go into to the exclusion of everything else. That's why I love augmented reality, where I love working in VR, but I think augmented reality is currently underestimated, let's say. But I think that means we have to be serious about the phone already and go back to it, because ultimately the phone can deliver a huge amount of contextual narrative that can change the way that you walk down the street, because it can make the way you walk down the street feel more adventurous. If you're walking down the street and the right song comes on your phone, on your headphones, and you start walking down the street slightly differently, your reality is being augmented. I don't give a shit about
I do that without music.
Exactly. But if you just have a thought, if you just you've been listening to a romantic podcast, or you've been playing a game where you're a ninja and you just look at the street slightly differently because you see it as
a romantic ninja.
Well, exactly. Yeah, romance ninja. There's the
So the
mixed
answer is
reality
no,
experience
then.
that we want to make.
So the answer is no.
Yeah, we're going back to the phone. Well, it's just, I don't think the phone is going to go away. I think that Meta and Samsung in their way have already talked about how effectively the glasses are an extension of your phone, and where the VR might replace your flat screen TV and your desktop, the augmented reality glasses might be an extension and ultimately, eventually, a replacement for your phone.
So no.
Yes.
Basically, yes.
Yes, it'll remain really, really relevant. And like you say, it's the most accessible. Because it has to be said, everything that we're talking about, all those new custom premium realities that people might be able to access, will only be accessible to people who can afford it. And the vast majority of the people in the world may find themselves living in a freemium, free-to-play, second-class reality.
FFSR.
Yeah.
No, okay. That's, and also that goes with wearables. I believe in wearables, and I know that this is going to be integrated into that. Your phone will morph into your clothes and everything else, and haptics, and on top of that, too. So it is beer o'clock.
Let's let these people
get
a
one more
drink.
question.
Okay.
One more question, if we don't mind passing the mic back. Please, thank you. And if anyone does have any extra questions, Rob will be available for book signing in the foyer. Foyer. Tom Sawyer. Sorry, sir, please.
Hi. So my name is Aimo, and I was wondering, so you wrote a book to share some lessons of your career, of your journey, and the book, the writing is a medium, right? So there is some mediation. XR, on the other end, is experiential. And so it's something that you really need to experience, and this is also what fascinated you at your time at PlayStation when you started to get fascinated by augmented reality and the fact that you can be the character, you can be the player. There was no mediation. So I wonder, sharing these lessons, don't you think that there will be a gap between what the readers will understand and what you're trying to convey? I believe that maybe your next book could be an augmented reality experience to share these lessons.
Look at the smile on his face. He's like, yes, bro.
That's inspiring stuff. I think the misunderstanding between the author's intention and what the reader reads is where the art happens. But I would love to do an augmented reality book or teach these lessons in augmented reality. But the objective of doing so would not be so that the reader receives perfectly exactly what I intended. It would just be to be able to inspire them a bit more to go out and do it their way.
On that note, Rob Morgan,
We gotta go.
you wrote a book. Thank you so much. Oops, that's just my phone, that's okay. And we're so proud of you. I think that is a wrap. We've kept you in this room almost 3 hours, and we do have beer next door at All Bar One. Thank you so much. Oh,
Yes, so
wait,
just
I'm
want to
still on
say
the mic.
thank you for coming,
and
and thank you for
We're
doing
gonna lose
and
the
see you
Okay,
next
okay.
time.
If someone could go to All Bar One really quickly, that'd be great. So, wait, before you go, there's one quick announcement. Steve, do you have an announcement? Are you done? Oh, okay. Thank you. Okay.